Did she say what kind of animal it was that attacked her?
So yeah, there's data seems of an animal attack. Statistically, there's been more animal attacks, mysterious deaths, people gone missing.
In other news, local authorities remain perplexed by the animal attacks.
What attacked you in the woods?
An animal. What else could it have been?
Welcome to It Was an Animal Attack, home of the supernatural drama series. I'm Sandile.
And I'm Fadzai.
And we are here today to talk about one of my recent favorites, definitely post the podcast starting. Heretic, Icon, Season 7 late game Dark Horse, Valerie Tulle. Now, I was going to say some of you, a lot of you probably going, who the heck is Valerie Tulle?
Who and who?
Because maybe you stopped like 3 or 4 seasons in and you didn't get to Lily and the Heretics. But it's okay because we're here to tell you who she is. Like I said, Season 7 antagonist, probably the most interesting of the 6 Heretics. Definitely the most present. And I'll tell you what, the only one who survives the damn show. So... Oh, before we actually get into it, just in case, because we just put out the original / Michelson siblings episode, which has done fairly well. I'm very happy that people are tuning in. But if you missed the announcement at the end of that part 3, I am releasing... Actually, when this goes out, it'll already be an episode in, with the second one coming that weekend. But I have a horror fiction audio drama called Call to the Dark that is releasing on a weekly basis. It is inspired by Southern African myths. It's told through short stories and epistolary fiction, and it is about a character named Dingane Lutuli who receives a box from his deceased father, and a mystery unfolds from there. So if that sounds like a fun time to you, that's Call to the Dark. You can find it on social media at Call Dark Pod. That's on Twitter and Instagram. And you can find it anywhere you listen to podcasts. If you're listening to this podcast now, you will be able to find Call to the Dark where you're listening. But if you can't, just go to the social media accounts and there should be a way to get to it from there. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say at the top.
Yes, the animal attack was you all along.
It was
You
me.
are the one you've been waiting for.
Oh, my life.
Also, in case, I always like to imagine we've reached an audience beyond people who might know us or follow us on Twitter. In case anyone like from outside of our own country is listening, Sandile is Southern African, so don't worry, there's no cultural appropriation going on.
I cannot appropriate my own culture, believe it or not.
Not yet.
Although
I'm sure we'll get there one
not
day.
Yet. I will say, though, my specific culture is sort of the bulk of the focus because I like to write what I know. But my intent is to broaden my horizons within Southern Africa. But I will be doing the diligence and the work that's required to make sure I get it right, asterisk, because ultimately it's fiction and it's inspired by, not based on. So, you know, that's just that. But yeah, I guess, shall we get started?
Yes.
Fadzai, opinions, thoughts on Valerie.
Valerie.
Out the gate.
Out the gate. The immediate opinion that comes to mind is one that I know you don't like. I'm not going to say it. I'll let us get there organically in the little retelling. But other than that one opinion, yeah, she's my favorite of the Heretics. She's certainly the most fleshed out. I think it would be Valerie. It would be the mean lesbians. I mean, no shade to the character or the actor, but sadly, Oscar would have to be next because he gets the most to do out of the boys.
Which is crazy because he's in it for an episode and then 2 more as a dead body and then possessed by someone completely different.
And then it's Bo, who's actually around
A bit.
He's around like the longest of the dudes.
Yes. Certainly.
But he doesn't speak. We've spoken about it in the Killer Bite episode for Bo, but it's just it's the decision to have the one black heretic be mute and just anyway,
and not give him any sort of like communication methods outside of physical speaking.
Because there could have been a lot to do with a nonverbal character who you were allowing to like have agency and communicate their feelings, but it's mostly like others speaking for Bo or just us having to infer how he feels about things. And then obviously Malcolm, who dies in like episode 1 or 2.
Going back, because obviously I rewatched season 7 before this, he has lines in the first episode, which I was surprised to learn.
Yeah.
That was shocking.
So he got to say more than Bo.
Oh no. Hey, Bo gets to sing in a flashback, so that's something, I guess.
Yeah, before he gets stabbed through the throat by Raina Cruz.
Yeah.
But Valerie,
I would say about the same.
Yeah, Valerie feels like the most valuable one. She's really interesting. I started off not liking her, as with most of the heretics. She very quickly grew on me just because of like her demeanor. She's like the stoic, angsty, emo one. Emo in the sort of like vague colloquial sense, not the literal sense. Before, in case we have any emo watchers who are like, that's not emo culture.
She doesn't even dress like an emo. What are we talking about? Have her name 3 emo bands.
Mind you, she's a witch and a vampire, so honestly.
Like, she's living the life better than you might be, if you want to consider. I don't know why suddenly we're being hostile towards emos. I was emo. What's happening? Anyway.
And then also once we learn more about her story and what she's been through, I was like, no, sweetie, I'm on your side. I understand.
Yeah. It's tough. Yeah, I think for a similar reason, the reason I very recently, over the like last year or 2 years almost, I've connected a lot with Valerie, largely because of her demeanor. I just, something about her whole vibe.
That Daria really energy of hers.
Yes. I'm a big fan of it. But yeah, no, let's jump right in, as you often say. So we're in season 7, of course. Elena's gone into her big sleep. Kai having cursed her to spite Bonnie specifically. I always forget that like that was at Bonnie and not at Elena, because it's like, what did Kai have against Elena Gilbert?
He met her once and said she was really pretty and she was making him nervous while he was torturing her.
That's about it. That was very much to spite Bonnie. But more importantly, Lily Salvatore, the Salvatore brothers' mom, has come back from a prison world made by the Gemini coven. She is a vampire, and she is set up in Mystic Falls with her heretic children. They are witch-vampire hybrids. Again, if you did not watch past a certain point, this is all nonsense to you, so just try and keep up. But they're now living in Mystic Falls. And the thing about the heretics that we've touched on before is that they're presented a certain way in season 6 as these sorts of support system for Lily, who struggles with restraint as a vampire the same way Stefan does. She's a ripper, and if she is destabilized emotionally, she loses control of her bloodlust. The heretics, who, while all 7 of them, Lily and the heretics, were in the prison world, they forwent their rations of blood in the world, because there's a limited supply of blood in a world that's a copy of the real world. They forwent their rations for Lily so that she could stay sated while they desiccated. And then when they come out into the real world after being sprung free, the dynamic shifts a bit. Lily becomes more of this maternal figure for these heretics, who aren't young. Some of them are young physically, but they're all like over 100 years old. So there's just a lot of interesting shifts in the dynamic of the family, because the story wants to position them in a sort of antiposition to the Salvatore brothers, who are having this torrid relationship with their mom, who doesn't really want to be their mom right now because it reminds her of a bad time in her life.
Yeah. It's like in season 6, the way she speaks about them kind of feels like if she's Stefan and you take Stefan's relationship with Lexi, but there's like 6 Lexis. And it's like, maybe not necessarily that they trained her, but certainly that they are this anchor force that's like, okay, when you're around, I can behave. You always help me. You keep me grounded. And then suddenly in season 7, it's like, come, my children, I am the leader of the pack. I am Mother Hen. Listen to me.
I have to keep y'all in line because y'all have no control. And it's like, oh,
it's
okay.
also like, it's also like suddenly they're the wild ones. And she's like, no, guys, let's be peaceful. I was like, huh?
Okay.
But how, what?
That lady's
it doesn't
a ripper.
feel as though these people would have been a good influence on you.
Yeah, but as you've said before, it might be similar to a Stefan and Damon situation where it's like, because they are so wild, and this is not what they were setting up in season 6, but it's a fair enough handwave, that in order to wrestle them who are so wild and out of control, she has to keep herself in control to keep them in check, which is what Stefan has to do for Damon.
Which is fair.
You know,
that can be a dynamic that happens a lot of times in like families or friend groups. You think of like like shameless and how Fiona often has to be like so steady and can't mess up in the way that a lot of 20-somethings would, because she's essentially the mother to all her younger siblings, and she's like, oh no, I gotta keep a good head on my shoulders, otherwise this whole household falls apart.
Precisely. But given that, we open season 7, as we talked about in the Caroline episode, it opens with Caroline keeping a diary for Elena, who's in that Sleeping Beauty curse, and she's catching us up on everything that's happened between the season 6 finale and now. She has that awkward chat with Stefan, because they're like, ooh, we now both have made clear we're romantically interested in each other. We have kissed, and then a number of really shitty things happened to keep us apart, but now it's like, maybe we can do this? After that, the scene moves to a different blonde girlie on a different bench in the park there in Mystic Falls, because that's where Caroline's writing in a diary. And it's so crazy. The camera is following Stefan as he walks away from Caroline, and he literally walks past Valerie Tulle as she's writing in her own diary. Doesn't see her, just walks past some girl sitting on a bench and moves on. It was a very interesting framing. I was like, wow, did she know he was walking past? These are vampires. Did they not like... I don't know.
Her eyes were on the page that she was writing on. She's very focused.
It's true. It's true. She had a lot of emotions to get out. To that point, she writes, "Dear diary, I'm in hell. It's hard to imagine." It's hard to imagine a place worse than where I've come from, but by some spectacular miracle, I found it. Which is truly why I became so connected to her on the rewatch. She has the driest sarcasm, and she is so over everything. I love it so much.
She's like describing modern culture in this way that I'm like, you often get people who live in this era, obviously, speaking like that about the world, especially like Americans who get to see, you know, face first what that society is like. But she's literally like a century old, so she's like, no, I remember how the world used to be, and
she's like, the food is literal poison.
Yes, she's the food is literal poison. The air smells of plague, and I was like, all right.
It's like, you worked in a TB ward. You know what actual plague is, Valerie.
She was reading the ingredients on the back of like packaging for American foods, and she was like, what is all this stuff?
All these compounds? My goodness. But yeah, she, as you're saying, she rattles off all this stuff that she hates about this modern world, and the voiceover keeps going as she leaves the park from like writing her diary. And
I shouldn't laugh.
I mean, you shouldn't. It's awful. She's struggling to text Lily because she didn't know what a phone was before like a month ago, presumably. And now she has to respond to like 3 spam texts from Lily checking if she's okay. And she keeps tapping the screen to like figure out how to do it. It's not working. So she walks out into the middle of the road and she gets completely rammed by a car. An SUV too, not just a regular car. These 2, at this point, young people, it's unclear, hop out of the car, and it's a young man and a young woman.
They certainly look younger than our leads, so
yes,
if you told me they
definitely.
were teens,
but in my head, I was like, these are college kids maybe that are back from Whitmore. I'm not sure. The girl tries to check on Valerie. She's like, we should call an ambulance, but the guy insists that they leave because nobody saw them, and he has just smoked a joint, so he'll go to jail. Which, while it's still awful, I did appreciate looking back the like extra reasoning, because the way I thought it was that like they just did a hit and run.
Yeah.
And I was like, she walked out into the middle of the road. I think you'd be okay if you reported this. You wouldn't be culpable. But then it's like, oh, if you were under the influence, then that would be, you know, bad for you. You might actually go to jail, which still a really shitty thing to do.
Yeah,
but
also
I was
I'm
like, the logic
switch
makes
seats,
more
you
sense.
can lie and say she was driving. I mean, listen.
Now, you're thinking.
Not to get into it, but the guy driving was a black guy.
That's
and the girl
the other
in the passenger
thing, too.
seat was a white girl. So I think
Because I was like, of course they're gonna arrest you, no question, Boyfie. I understand your fear.
he's in Virginia.
You're in Virginia as a black man. They're gonna arrest you just for driving, period. Leave the joint, leave that you've knocked somebody. And Girly didn't think, I'll say I'm driving. Maybe she didn't have a license. I don't know.
Maybe.
Because this is the thing. You're thinking they're not, because we learned these are high schoolers. So they're stupid by default. So
they
what
are
makes
high
this so
schoolers.
bad.
Gosh.
Yes. Later we see them at the high school.
There we go. That's why they look younger. Even though physically Stefan and Caroline are meant to look 17.
Right. But yeah, Valerie walked into that road. No zebra crossing. Didn't look right or left. Nothing. Obviously, she doesn't know what any of that means, but legally. But they drive off, and then, of course, Valerie wakes up because she is part vampire, so that wouldn't kill her. When she gets home, she finds Lily, and also Nora and Mary Louise, as you said, our icon lesbians. Beau and Malcolm, who is still alive at this point, bless him. They were also in the room in a prior scene, but they've left to play backgammon, which is a game I'm aware of and would love to know how to play, because the board looks really cool. Valerie says some horrible teenagers plowed her down in her automobile.
In their automobile.
In their automobile, yes. That's the first thing. I don't know how she knows they're teenagers. She just knows physically, I guess, and I'm like, okay, cool. She says they left her for dead with no apology, and she had to act like roadkill because Lily insists that they remain non-violent while they're living in Mystic Falls. So that's the first, setup of these heretics are not happy about the fact that they can't feed from or kill people in town. So it's like, oh, okay, we're getting a sense of who these people are, I guess. She does say, though, she frames it as, defending herself. She's like, I'm not allowed to defend myself because Lily is a pacifist. And I'm like, well,
I'm like, you could have just...
human and you're a vampire.
Yeah, you could have stood up
die.
with your regenerative abilities, compelled them if you needed to,
right,
and then gone on your merry way.
Freak them out a little bit. And then wipe their memory. I think there were ways around this, but I guess you want to kill. So then Nora and Mary Louise tell Valerie not to worry about it. They're like, you're safe, you're at home now. But in the next scene, immediate next scene, we see them with Valerie as they find these teenagers who did the hit and run. They're outside the high school washing the car, cleaning up the evidence like criminals. Valerie enters the scene and so casually bashes the boy's head into the hood and blood splatters all over the windshield. Yeah. And she says, Mr. Spot.
She says it in that way you love her, just casual, dry,
just really dry.
She's like, whoops, Mr. Spot. And I was like, damn, you didn't even want to maybe tell him why you're killing him? This poor kid died without knowing what happened.
Imagine being the 16-year-old black kid in Virginia. You knock somebody in a hit and run. You're high as a kite. You're now washing your car thinking it's okay, I got away with it. I'm going to get to college. And then you're in the afterlife. Just suddenly... no awareness of what's happened. Your entire physical view has changed. Oh, God. Nora and Mary Louise catch the girl. She's trying to run away on the other side. And they're like, you're worse than your friend because you thought about doing the right thing and you didn't.
Which makes no sense. I was like, what?
I don't know how the scales work there, but okay.
I think at that point,
for me,
Cade the devil was watching from his realm and being like, yeah, that suits my criteria for punishment.
I like that. I like that system. This is when he set it up. Then Valerie feeds from this girlie, and presumably Nora and Mary Louise do. We don't see it. And then they leave them strung up outside the high school for Matt, Stefan, and the police to find. It's kind of crazy and gruesome.
And it's like, okay, why? You were getting revenge on these hit and run kids. What does that have to do with you now not only spitting in the face of Lily's rules, but making a scene and upsetting other people in this town? It's like, huh?
So there's this sense about the heretics, and we've talked about it before, that they feel they are the most powerful beings in the world, which will be proven false not only just by the existence of the originals, right, who are New Orleans, not within earshot to hear this nonsense and come beat their asses, but within the season, multiple other figures who are not heretics will just beat their asses. So it's like, I guess you're not that powerful? I don't know.
Yeah.
There's usually some strategy to it. I'm not going to pretend it's always a power v power battle, but it's just interesting. But that might explain why they're like, yeah, let's leave this a symbol for all to see. Don't mess with us. You can't just hit and run us with an SUV and then get away with it, we'll kill you.
Kind of wild. Okay. The story starts off with them being kind of evil for no reason, and it's like, weren't you Lily's compass at one point? I guess technically we'll later on learn this season that the reasoning for that was, oh, Lily's feeding was drawing too much attention to us, and I guess they were on the run from the Gemini coven.
Yes,
and now the Gemini coven is gone.
As we'll later learn.
But I don't know how much they know about the Huntress at this point.
That's true.
The 6 of them. Certainly they've encountered her before, but I don't know if they know that she would still be alive and all that.
Fair point. I guess, you're right. It's now that the Gemini coven's gone, they're a bit more lax and loose. And also, they've been in a prison world for 100 years, so,
Yeah.
We've all got to cut loose every now and then.
Probably also affected them psychologically.
Oh, yeah.
Sitting still and desiccating for a century.
It's like Lily didn't have to do that, so she can be all nice and sweet. We can't. But after this is when the Mystic Falls gang makes that bomb in retaliation. Caroline distracts the Heretics. She brings a housewarming gift while Matt sneaks in through the back door and plants the bomb. She brings this big house plant, and Nora says that Valerie is allergic to nature, which I thought was funny. It's like, can't be true because she's a witch, but I just thought it was really funny.
She's
like,
so...
Valerie's allergic to nature. She won't like that.
She's so emo that she's allergic to flowers. So, I'm
allergic to genuine emotion. Please keep that away from me.
Or at least bright colors. Which is funny because she doesn't dress all that dark, at least by the standards of the show.
She does a lot of brown, a lot of dark green. I actually like her whole palette. It's cute. Very natural, actually, now that I think about it.
She's like, I'm not gonna put effort into all the black and the makeup and stuff because I care so little.
It's so much work and it's such a big statement, and I'm not a big statement kind of gal, The bomb goes off. It doesn't kill the Heretics because they are witch vampires. So the 5 Heretics who are in town at the moment, as we've said, Oscar's out and about doing God knows what. We don't even know about Oscar at this point, except for at the end of season 6, he is one of the 6 that you see get out of that container. They then retaliate by lighting up a police graduation event and killing all the new deputies, which, is that the worst thing they've ever done? JK. A lot of people died. They also kill civilians. It's not just the cops. They're vamp rushing around and getting some sips in. Bo and Malcolm are also there. I thought it was just the girlies. They just cast the spell.
There was already this energy I could read between the girlies where I'm like, okay, so Nora and Mary Lou are kikiing and being evil and mean. And they'll often throw shade and these Snyder marks at Valerie. But when push comes to shove, they're willing to work together. And I'm like, okay, I guess. Sisterhood. It's nice.
We love to see it.
Nobody hurts my sister but me.
Right. They're
very
you're
Michelson.
A trip and the best day, Valerie. But nobody touches our sister. Let's burn up this town. But yes, it is very Michelson, as we discussed in the originals episodes, that they are the Michelsons from Shein, which can be fun if you've got a hankering for a bunch of British chaotic kind of siblings. They're not all as siblingy as you might think.
Yeah,
2 of them are dating, to be clear. So there's that too. But yeah. Lily comes by and scolds everyone, not just the Heretics, but also Stefan and Caroline, I guess because they made that bomb. She's like, I tried to make peace. I toiled and suffered. It's your mother is very disappointed in you all, which is also
I'm like, lady, Ms. Carol Lockwood is watching from wherever she is right now, the afterlife, going, girl, I've been trying to make peace in this town since season 3. You're fighting an uphill battle here. You're gonna lose. It never works.
It never works. I died for it. I guess you're a vampire. You have a better go of it. But I'm seeing into the future, babe. You've got 7 episodes left total. That's when the Mystic Falls gang makes a deal with Lily and the Heretics. They evacuate the town and they cede the Salvatore house to the Heretic, which then becomes the Heretic household.
Lily leads them in and she's like, pick a room. There's plenty.
Yeah. She's like, yeah, there's 42. But then, of course, towards the end of that episode, Bonnie and Damon break that deal and kill Malcolm. They're like, we didn't make any such deal. And it's like, you're still screwing over your friends who did. So
yeah.
I don't know if that works, but okay. Bad connection, those two. But far be it from me.
Bonnie had a bad year in season 6, so she's acting a little too keen on the violence. We'll say it's because of that.
Which on any other day I support, girly. You should be dropping vampires left and right. But this was a strategic failure.
She just shows up and she's like, I'm the town witch. And I was like, I'm glad that you're calling yourself that because you are. Unfortunately, you don't have any witch friends here. But
let's be smart about this. Let's not just kill the first heretic we encounter on the streets because we're pissed.
And then they leave his body there for them to find. I'm like, you didn't even hide it?
It's so, again, sending a symbol, right? Which is like, okay, and now what? There's just going to be further retaliation.
Gosh.
In this Cold War of yours.
Damon got rid of Mason's body. I'm like, you couldn't bury Malcolm.
Couldn't bury Malcolm. Could barely handle Oscar's dead body in about 2 episodes. It's just a bad arc for that guy. For those 2, honestly. Then they fold Rick into it. Oh, God. But at the end of that first episode, Enzo drugs and kidnaps Caroline so he can deliver her to the heretic household because he's in love with Lily this season, as we will recall. But when Caroline starts getting tortured by Nora and Mary Louise, he's like, well, that's not what I thought would happen. So then he tries to petition Lily.
He literally says, I hadn't noticed, but he says, that doesn't mean I'm okay with them torturing someone I care about. And I was like, you care about Caroline?
Like, care about?
What?
You just sold her to the heretics. What about that is an ethic of care, man?
And when did you start caring about Caroline?
Season 6, at the beginning, when they became like kind of buddy-buddy, and then they went to Savannah to harangue Stefan. And then he picks a fight with Stefan, and then he kills Ivy because of Stefan.
Oh, you mean when he was transferring his feelings of frustration from Stefan to her?
Yes. From that point on, he's cared about Caroline. So
I guess he'd be like, Lily, tell them to stop hurting Stefan. And she'd be like, you mean Caroline? He'd be like, right, what did I say? It's Caroline.
Precisely. He does go to Lily and is like, well, tell them to stop. And Lily's like, I left Caroline with you. And she almost escaped. She beat your ass, staked you in the side, and was about to hop out of the house. So whose fault do you think this is? So that's kind of fun. Valerie comes in after Lily leaves. And she's like, hey, it's not fair, but Lily usually lets the lesbians get away with murder. Which, frankly, as she should. Then she says, Enzo can still get what he wants. He just has to go around her. And Enzo's like, spare me the family politics. And then Valerie, dropping some insight, is like, listen, you chose your side. Whether it was right or wrong, you have to deal with it now. And when Enzo asks, as you say, if he should just be chill about somebody he cares about being tortured, Valerie's like, no, you should just stop caring about her. Which I thought was a very interesting thing to say. I was like, what a way to approach that problem. What does that say about you, Miss Tulle?
Everything we need to know.
Especially given some things we're about to learn about her historically. It's like, is that maybe a bit of a put on? Or do you genuinely try and suppress those sorts of feelings so that it's like, no harm, no foul?
Amazed she hasn't flipped her switch, honestly.
I guess because she's already like...
She's like, there's a switch?
She's had the switch up this whole time.
She's that meme with, what's his name? Eyebrows. I always forget his name.
Oh, yes. What is his name?
Cousin Eustace.
From We're the Millers.
Will Poulter. There we go.
Will Poulter.
She's that meme going, wait, you guys got switches?
You guys have switches?
You guys got a humanity switch?
Later, she then goes into where Nora and Mary Louise are keeping Caroline. Caroline is hanging from ropes by her wrists, and she's got like a bunch of makeup tools that are stabbed into her. It's crazy. And Valerie's like, oh, shame, Nora or Mary Louise. And then she starts like commiserating with Caroline about how awful they can be. She puts a book under Caroline's feet so that she can stand properly rather than like just be hanging. And she starts pulling the stuff out that's been stabbed into her.
And I was like, oh, she's the nice one.
Right? That's the thing. That's like the scene is like, oh, and she might be like really dry and kind of bitchy, but it's like, oh, she's really showing some sympathy to Caroline. She's also, like, one time I made a snide comment about Nora's dress, and Mary Louise poisoned my food for a month, and it's like, oh, damn.
Which I was like, okay, how did she do that? Because you don't need to eat food. So I'm assuming, was she poisoning your blood that you were drinking?
And
or
it's like,
would you, like
if it's actual food that you're eating just for the recreation, it's like, and you kept eating
you know?
even though you didn't need to? Valerie. Maybe this is pre-becoming heretics. Maybe this is back when they were siphons.
That's crazy, because then she could have died.
Yeah, she was just poisoning her food as a person. That would be wild.
Wow. And that's pre them getting heightened vampire emotions as well. So I'd be like, calm down, Mary Lou. She also, I think she says Nora is the nice one.
Yeah, which surprised me.
Kind of. I think Mary Lou is the more sensitive one. She's more prone to getting her feelings hurt.
Yes.
But between the two of them, we will later see that Nora is the one who is more inclined to try and make peace with her enemies.
Yes, she's much kinder, which I was like, I don't know why all this time I didn't put that together, but watching it now I was like, wow, Nora's really sweet when you get down to it.
Her girlfriend is a bad influence on her.
That is what they say. They describe Mary Lou as Nora's mentor at some point, and I was like, oh, they're dating. That's a weird dynamic, but okay. Because Nora was like a sweet little like repressed girl, and then Mary Lou helped her get out of her shell, apparently. But then now the roles have reversed in modern day because Nora is adapting a lot easier to the modern day culture and Mary Lou is struggling. So that's why. But yeah, Valerie tells Caroline she can help and she casts a spell on her just before Mary Lou comes back. And when Mary Louise demands to know what she's doing there, Valerie holds up like an eyebrow pencil and she's like, oh, I've heard of a new fashion called hookah chic that I wanted to try. I figured you'd have something for it. Here we go. She holds up the pencil. And then she leaves.
I'm like, you know what? She gets some good barbs in.
So good.
The lesbians are just united against her, so it's 2-on-1.
It's 2-on-1, but she holds her own. Mary Louise then tries to grab Caroline, and it burns her because Valerie has made her skin react to vampires like vervain. So then after that, Lily and the 4 heretics that are currently here go to have Malcolm's funeral. There's an encounter with Damon that's not super important, but they each mention what Malcolm meant to them as like a screw you to Damon for questioning the bonds of our family or whatever. And Valerie says that Malcolm reunited her and Beau after they'd not seen each other in a decade.
Which is a clever way of them circumventing the fact that Beau can't speak and they don't have any sign language for him. So it's like,
it doubles up both their thankfulnesses to Malcolm, I guess. But to that point, it's something that will come up once or twice again, or that will be like threaded through, is that Valerie and Beau are close and have known each other the longest of this group of heretics. But because it's to do with Beau, we don't get that much more of that, which is a shame. At the end of the episode, Nora unties Caroline and then gives her her own room. Because as you said, we're starting to see more of the heretics and we're seeing that weirdly, Nora is the kindest of them. I think earlier, when they were about to leave for the funeral, Caroline compliments Nora's dress and Nora is like, thank you. And then she looks Caroline's like torture situation up and down and she's like, oh, damn, maybe it doesn't need to be all of this. And so that's why she's put her in this room now. She also gives Caroline a diary and tells her, hey, you probably think Valerie's the nice one and that she was trying to help you, but actually, she's the worst of us. She tells Caroline that this diary is Stefan's, and it's apparently the first thing Valerie looked for when they were trapped in 1903. Caroline then reads an entry that Nora pointed out and learns that Valerie and Stefan met in the 1860s. So that's a big stinger at the end of the episode.
A fun new retcon. 1863, which would have been 1 year before all of the Damon's back from the war, Catherine Pierce comes to town drama.
Yes. But the timing on like all the events that happened in the 1860s start to become weird with what they reference, because they'll say that Stefan's 10 when his mom died, and it's been 7 years since that when he meets Valerie. But we know Stefan's 17.
I think they do say it's been 6 years.
Following year.
I think they say 6 years.
He says 7.
They do? Okay, well, when I was watching the flashback yesterday, he said 6.
Then maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. But even in the wiki, it's 1850. Oh, I can't remember. I think I wrote it down later, the year that Lily supposedly died. I'll double check later. But it's roughly the time. Stefan's like 16 going on 17. Actually, I'm 33. And that's when he apparently met Valerie.
With a 29-year-old or 31-year-old or whatever. Paul Wesley playing a sweet 16-year-old boy.
Yeah, I think that's about right, because he's, 40 now? So it's 9 years ago? Yeah, I think 31-year-old Salvatore. That's okay, you know? it's a Pen 15 situation.
Yeah,
it's a new girl.
He's channeling the energy of like the sweet, naive Stefan, who's even more of a little boy than he was when Catherine came to town. And it's like, okay, I'll look past it. Your hair looks silly, but that's not the issue.
He's taking advantage of those big doe eyes. So it's like, okay, fair enough.
So unfortunately, his very angular jawline makes him look very mature.
It's like, that's not a jawline of a 16-year-old. That's a jawline of a fae being that has existed thousands of years. You can't fool me. Next episode, Caroline gets a call from Stefan, who's making sure she's okay. And she asks him about Valerie Tulle, who he wrote about in his diary in the 1860s. And she tells him that she's one of the heretics, which Stefan didn't know. She describes her as having dirty blonde hair, blue eyes, and being, quote, one of her new psycho housemates. And then Valerie vamp rushes in and crushes the phone in Caroline's hand. And she stands up and she says, dirty blonde hair, blue eyes, psycho. Summarize me to a T. And then cracks her over the head with the most violent kick I've ever seen in my life. It's so beautiful. You have to watch. This is season 7, episode 3. It's like 5 minutes in. It's
the combination of strength and speed that these vampiric characters have that makes them hit so hard and so cartoonishly comical.
That's what it is. It's comical. And the like sound work and the like how they're cheating the scene just makes it work so well. Props to everyone working on that. I cackled.
I'm now remembering that Rolf was texting us in real time when Rose slapped Elena.
Yes.
And it was like, oh wow, she really went across the room.
She really flies across the room.
And lands on the couch fully unconscious.
We are never exaggerating when we're talking about people getting whacked and flying across the room. It is truly what happens. Later, we see Stefan speaking to his mother, and he asks her about Valerie. And Lily's like, oh, finally put that together, my dear boy. And it's like, well, damn, girl, okay. She tells him that Valerie was a nurse in her TB ward, and that after Lily turned into a vampire, because we never get who actually turned Lily. Presumably a vampire who was also at this TB ward, right?
I've fully forgotten, but if you say we never get it, I trust you.
I don't think we do. Yeah, that's so strange. I think she says it was at the TB ward before someone fed a vampire blood and turned.
It's off-screen stuff. We just know she was sent to a sanatorium where I guess she was dying. And then I'm always curious about, in this universe, with the way vampirism works, people saving sickly people by turning them into vampires. I'm like, wouldn't your blood have just
healed the sickness?
I know it doesn't heal cancer, but
yeah, we had a long chat about TB as well in the Caroline episode where we were talking about cancer. Like, how would that? Yeah, I don't know. I guess they're just hoping the sickness is severe enough that you're already on your deathbed and that it'll kill you faster than the blood can heal you. A big gamble that I wouldn't take.
Or possibly they're trying to heal you and the blood doesn't work and you die anyway with the blood in your system.
Fair. After Lily turned into a vampire, she took Valerie under her wing, and she's the one who sent Valerie to Mystic Falls in the 1860s to go check in on Stefan. And this is actually a really Valerie-heavy episode, so we're gonna dive into it. But we get a flashback of Valerie in old-timey dress, and she finds Stefan writing in his diary on a bench. There's a lot of that this season, just people sitting on benches writing in diaries. She tells him he has to move because his sour mood is spoiling everyone else's fun.
Which is like, wow, once upon a time you were the ray of sunshine telling people
right?
that they should put a smile on their face and stop being so dour.
Exactly. She walks into that scene with a smile on her face and is like, oh, you're ruining everyone's mood. Get out of here. And he's like, make me. And it's like, oh, cute. They introduce themselves to each other and it's all very sweet, kind of flirty. 1860s flirty, of course. No touching. Actually, a lot of touching, a lot more than you'd think. I guess 1860s versus the early 1800s has been a big thing.
I mean, listen, she's being flirty. I guess she was sent to check up on him, but not necessarily talk to him. I don't really know how that was supposed to work, because later on the story will treat it like that was the instruction. But props to her for having the confidence that I could not have. I would not just walk up to some stranger and be like, Teehee, you need to move because you're spoiling the mood with your sad boy energy. My fear would be that this person's going to look at me, not crack a smile at my obvious joke and be like, go away. Leave me alone. Who are you?
Yeah, It's again a gamble, and I am risk averse, baby. We cut back to present day with Valerie. Caroline has woken up from that violent kick, and Valerie informs her that, oh, I wasn't just some girl to Stefan. I was actually the first love of his life. So
another retcon. It's fine. It doesn't directly contradict.
Doesn't knock anything out.
Yeah.
With Lily again, we see her telling Stefan she was about to leave for England with a gentleman friend, and she wanted to make sure that her sons were doing okay, which is why she sent Valerie to check up on Stefan. And we hear later she sent Oscar to check up on Damon. Then Stefan shows interest in the fact that, oh, mom's got a new boyfriend? Who's this guy? And then we get a flashback again to the 1860s of Julian. Yay. Surname unknown throughout the show. Yay, Julian!
Everyone claps.
Antagonist.
Surname unknown because nobody cared enough to check or ask.
That's the thing, is that like, I was like, is it because of when he's from? But I checked, and English people were using surnames and family names again by the 1500s. So I guess it just truly didn't matter what his surname was.
Didn't matter. Julian's son, whatever you want to call him.
He's running a kissing booth at this town event.
Quite risque for 1863.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, these 1860s.
He was like, for the soldiers at war. And I was like, okay.
Oh, we can't say Confederacy because we're laundering Damon's reputation. So, but yeah, Valerie and Stefan are nearby this like event. There's like a town fair or whatever going on. You know how it is in Mystic Falls. They're like throwing popcorn at each other or something cute like that. And Julian comes by and he says, aren't we ladylike? And there's an immediate undercurrent of like, oh, what's happening here? Valerie introduces them. Stefan thinks Julian's her dad, which is weird because she called him Julian. She didn't say father. So he's 16.
She's white.
That's how white people roll. She's like, no, he's not my father. Neither of them give any further explanation to that as to why he's escorting her. Like, I would immediately be like, oh, he's not your father. Why is this strange man concerned about you?
Stefan is just like, listen, I live in the middle of Virginia. I met two people in the same day who were both white and blonde and had English accents. I just assumed. But now that you're telling me you're not related, I have questions.
I have many questions. Two Britishes? Weird. Julian is like, Valerie, darling, a word, and then pulls her away by the arm, quite roughly. And Stefan's like, okay.
She's like, you're wrinkling my dress, Julian. And I'm like, I suppose that's her socially acceptable way of saying...
response.
Of being like, you're hurting me, please let go, because we're in public and we can't cause a scene. It's 1863.
Yeah. She's like, what? Lily sent us here to get a sense of his mood. And Julian says, his mood, not his manhood, which is crazy.
I was like, excuse me, we're in public. You are speaking to a lady.
A lady of society. And they were at most flirting. Manhood. Get your face out of here. You're the one whoring around on stage kissing random women. How dare you? I've been saying whore a lot lately. I need to stop.
Also, I'm like, Julian, why are you, as a man, or anyone, speaking about your girlfriend's teenage son's manhood? That's weird, Julian. This is weird.
This is very weird. He then says Lily instructed them to keep their distance. But as Valerie then says to Caroline in present day, she couldn't keep a distance because Stefan was gorgeous and sweet, and she was very taken with him. And you know what, Valerie? Who among us? I'm not gonna hold you.
Certainly not Catherine.
Exactly. Caroline suggests that, like Catherine, Valerie compelled Stefan to fall in love with her. But Valerie explains that she wasn't a vampire at that point. She was just a siphon with a little bit of magic stored in an amulet for emergencies. So actually, Caroline, your man loved me from day one. Which, yeah, this is the main conflict for these girlies throughout this season, which is a shame. But it's kind of fun. Of the conflicts where it's like, oh, the girlies are fighting over a man, it's like, this one's fun at least. They've got a great dynamic. Back in the flashbacks, Valerie and Stefan are talking more about personal things. It's mostly about Stefan's life because Valerie's not revealing anything, of course. He speaks about his mother and her passing, and then Julian crosses nearby again and is like, your chaperone is very persistent. Valerie's like, okay, then let's lose him in the crowd. She secretly siphons some magic from her amulet and she casts an invisiquate spell to hide them, and so Julian can't see them. And Stefan is like, weird, he like didn't see us, what's that about? Because Stefan doesn't know about magic or witches at this point. Later they stop off in the woods and they have a sweet little kiss, and Valerie very quickly starts to unbutton her dress, and Stefan pulls back and he's like, I am actually a virgin, so this is intense, but also, would you let me undress you? And she's like, yeah, sure, absolutely. And then he starts to undress her with his own hands. And the rest is history. Very pivotal, as you say, retcon for the sake of Stefan's storyline as well. But for Valerie, it's almost like, as you're saying, we're in 1860s society. She's this lady. At this time, she's just a siphon. So it's like, even as a witch, she doesn't have a lot of power. But in this moment with Stefan, there's kind of a weird shift where it's like, oh, he's kind of vulnerable and innocent, and not to lean into it, but like deflowering him. It's like there's an interesting
and deflowered and deflowered.
Precisely.
I like that initially when she's talking about, oh, Stefan and I gave Julian the slip after the invisiquate spell, and Caroline's like, and then? And Valerie's like, none of your business. And then almost immediately she's like, yeah, we went into the woods and we had sex. He lost his virginity to me, Caroline.
So I guess it is Caroline's business as far as she's concerned. All right.
I think it's because Caroline, she makes some snide remark that I don't know whether she was intending to goad Valerie into revealing more, whether that was just an unintended consequence. But she was like, he forgot all about you. I don't care about some story about a girl Stefan loved 1,000,000 years ago. And she's like, wow.
I was his first.
And she's like, I'm sure you've been someone's first, Caroline. You know how it is that that person will always have you like in a special place in their heart and their memory. And I was like, oop.
Yeah.
Well,
I guess.
None of the main characters, we don't know anyone for whom Caroline has been the first time.
But as you say, a lot of their dynamic is like, is Caroline saying this thing to goad Valerie into revealing more information, or is she just being kind of petty and catty? And is Valerie saying this to spite Caroline, or is she volunteering information? Is an energy that they will sit in at multiple points throughout the season, which is why it's so fun for me. It's like, what are y'all up to? I love to watch it happen, but what's going on here? But yeah, there's then a really lovely moment in the flashback. Stefan takes Valerie to his mother's grave and he tells her about...
It's such a mood whiplash because he's like, I want to show you something, and then he leads her to the spot, and she's like, oh, this is romantic, and then he's like, and then it pans down. He's like, oh, this is my mother's grave, and her face falls immediately. She's so stunned. I think it takes her a second to appreciate the intimacy of him being like, oh, let me show you this special place that I go to remember my loved, lost parent, who, unbeknownst to him, she's like, well, your mother's not dead. I saw her the other day.
I know her very well. She's alive, actually. And she's kind of my mom, which is weird, but let's not talk about that.
Oh, no. How have I never thought about that?
You have to not. You simply have to
They
not.
did it again.
They always do it.
First it was Bonnie and Jamie, and now they've done it again.
A lot of very, very tiptoeing towards the line of incest in this show. But something I'm very familiar with, not reading the room before you make a dry joke, and then it's like, oh no, that's not what you should have said in that moment. Never mind. I actually have to leave. Very familiar with that sentiment. But yes, he takes her to Lily's grave and he talks about how his father sent him off when he was 10 years old, to go get flowers to make a tonic for her because she was dying of TB, only to come back and find that Lily had already been sent off to a sanatorium, and apparently he has blamed himself for 6 or 7 years, now I'm unsure, for not being fast enough to save her. Valerie then tells Stefan, actually, I used to work in a sanatorium myself, and that the plant he's referring to, they call it, it's white? No, it's cream violets, I think is what they're called. She says it has no medicinal properties. It's an old wives' tale. So his father sent him on a fool's errand to keep him out of the house that day so that they could send Lily off. It's not his fault that she died, which is a really nice kind of weight off of Stefan's shoulders. Then Julian comes along and he's like, oh, I knew you'd be here at Lily's grave. Doesn't explain how. So Stefan's like in the dark. I can't remember if he compels him or not. I don't think so.
He doesn't compel him, no.
But he's like, come along, we're off to New York, chop chop. And Valerie promises Stefan that she'll find her way back to him. Back in the present, Caroline's like, oh, it's kind of like The Notebook, except you never reconnect and he totally forgets about you. It's just so many good lines in this episode.
When Caroline is being catty, I actually love it. It's a shame that
she's on fire.
It's a shame that for such a large chunk of the show, that's mainly all her scenes with Klaus. So I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
I don't like, I can't appreciate it as much because it's meant to be their chemistry and their dynamic.
Right. Valerie then says, we lied to Lily and said that Stefan was happy, even though he was horribly depressed in this era, as we know. This is the era where he writes letters to Damon on the war front and is like, I can't see the light. I'm at the end of my rope. Valerie does send Stefan a telegram saying she's coming back for him and to meet her at that bench where they met the first time. We hear this from Stefan, where he's speaking to Lily about it. Lily's like, what? She wasn't supposed to do that. She doesn't say that, but that's what she's thinking. And Stefan's like, yeah, I waited on that bench all day and she never showed up and she broke my heart forever. So thanks for that. Caroline asks Valerie how she could do that to Stefan, and Valerie says there was a change of plan. But then she becomes upset and she leaves the room without explaining. But we as the viewer, we see in flashback that she actually was leaving New York that day to go back to Stefan, but she was stopped by Julian. Julian knew that Lily would not leave New York for England without her, quote, little orphans, as he puts it. And he says, it's imperative that I leave this day. He then hears with vampiring that there's another heartbeat inside Valerie. She was pregnant from her time with Stefan.
He's so creepy about it too. He's like,
yep,
because you can see she's on edge and he's like, do I make you nervous? And she's like, no. And he's like, oh, I can hear your heart racing. Both your hearts, in fact. I was like, ew, yeah, don't be like this.
Yeah, sadly he is like this. I did check, that makes her about 5 to 6 weeks pregnant, roughly, if you can hear a heartbeat already. So at minimum. In present day, Stefan is sitting on that same bench because that's where they cut the flashback, and then we see Stefan just sitting on that bench kind of staring out into nowhere. Valerie comes over and sits down next to him. It's the first time we see them in a scene together. She starts telling the truth about what happened that day she was meant to come back for him. Julian decided her being pregnant was not good for his plans, and so he beat her near to death so that she would miscarry. Valerie then woke up already on the ship going to England, where Julian had apparently fed Lily a lie about finding her on the street robbed and beaten just by some rando. Valerie couldn't dispute that, because if she told Lily the truth about what happened, she would have to first expose her relationship with Stefan, and supposedly Lily would never forgive that. Which is like, ooh, that doesn't look good on Lily. But then we get some stuff about Lily later on, specifically pertaining to Julian, that explains why Valerie felt that way.
Yeah.
So she keeps that a secret. And instead, that night, she drinks tea laced with laudanum, which I believe is a poison. I think it's the poison Claudia uses on Lestat at the end of season 1 of... To, in between all this awfulness, bring that up, but I think I need some spirits lifted.
You know what? It worked on me. My spirits are soaring.
She drinks some tea with laudanum in it, and she dies in a bathtub. I'm not sure if the poison kills her first or she drowns, but she does go under the water.
She might have passed out and then drowned, so it could have been a combination of the two.
Yeah.
I wonder what would have happened if you had dragged her over the anti-magic bubble barrier, which she have started to exhibit signs of poisoning.
I guess so, yeah, because it would reverse. No, because if the drowning specifically killed her, yeah, it needs to be what got to the finish line first, the drowning or the poison? Because you're reversed to the moment of dying. Because Elena drowned, and she is drowning when she crosses the barrier. Suggested that she's about to die.
Coughing up water that I guess is being conjured in her vampire lungs.
From out of nowhere. It's like, who's materializing that? The other side? I don't know. But yeah, Valerie dies with Lily's blood in her system, because of course Lily fed her blood to heal her from her attack. And by pure chance, she awakes as the first heretic. The first heretic ever, by the way, which is like, the wiki refers to just this group as the heretics, which I guess may be what it is. It's like a title of this specific group of witch vampire hybrids. But I do like it as a name. Since hybrid has been co-opted by the vampire werewolf hybrids, might as well get your own.
Yeah. What else were they going to call them?
Yeah.
I guess in mythology, there are many like witch vampire creatures that sort of have traits of both. You think of like Striga, like a spell-casting, blood-drinking creature.
Yeah, love that.
But yeah, it's cool. I guess she's sort of like an original.
She is. She's the original
Or
heretic.
at least what Tyler was to Klaus. Like the first successful
the
hybrid.
first successful hybrid. She is also the first successful hybrid of a different kind, which is really cool. It puts her up in that echelon of Tyler, it's Valerie, and then spoilers for the original, skip forward like 15 seconds. But Hope is the first successful tribrid.
Yes.
So that's the row of them, I guess. What an interesting trio.
The three of them get a spin-off show. No, I'm being silly.
Dun, 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 dun.
I also, as we've said when we discussed, we had our witch and our vampire episodes. Heretics being this loophole in which the power of a witch and a vampire can exist in the same body. It's like, well, you're a siphon, so you're not really connected to nature. So vampirism would have nothing to sever in the way that it severs the connection of regular witches to the natural source of their power.
And because as a vampire you are innately magical, you can just keep siphoning from your own vampirism to cast magic the way you couldn't do as a siphon by yourself. So it's a really, really cool conceit. It's one of my favorites.
Except for whatever reason, they don't desiccate themselves when they're siphoning, whereas we know the twins desiccated Caroline.
Yes, certainly. My hand wave of that, because we spoke about the age of the vampire, maybe meaning there's more to pull from.
Maybe.
And so because the heretics are 100-year-old vampires.
Yeah.
Certainly because older vampires are stronger, they're harder to kill, they're more effective at certain vampire traits. So it stands to reason there's more innate magical energy, I don't know, to pull from. So that's why the heretics don't desiccate themselves. And I guess Kai doesn't do anything huge before he is decapitated. So
I guess he'd cast the sleeping curse beforehand, and then he explodes the wedding and kills like all the... Also, didn't Kai already have access? But he died. How does that work? Because he did have access to the
Gemini power.
Yeah, to the Gemini power,
Yeah.
but then died. Who knows what that means?
Yes.
But
I think he loses the Gemini power when he dies, but then gains access to heretic magic when he becomes a heretic.
it's also possible that if you just feed regularly, it's fine. Once you're at the age,
you can just keep replenishing yourself.
Yeah, the heretics
maybe that's why
are-
they're so hungry all the time, because they're always doing magic.
Maybe
That's why they're out killing.
That's their Ripper excuse.
But yeah, she tells Stefan she's sorry for everything, and then Stefan turns his head. The like angle of the scene shifts to be from over his shoulder, and we see that nobody is sitting next to Stefan. And it's like, what? And then he gets up and walks away, and it's like, oh yeah, the Gemini witches love to do their little Invisique spell. Valerie needed to unburden all of this, but couldn't actually bring herself to tell him. So she just Invisique'd herself, and he couldn't see or hear her this whole time.
Oh, give me some of that magic.
Yeah.
It works so well because you would believe Stefan is the kind of person who would sit there stoically while some long lost love is unburdening
Pours their
herself.
heart out.
Like, I'm gonna sit here and let you say your piece, and when you're done, then I'll turn to you and say what I have to say. And it's like, oh no, he fully couldn't see her. He's just sitting there brooding.
He's just looking into the air. He maybe caught a vibe and was like, whoa, what's that?
He's default brooding. That is his general setting.
But it's kind of crazy that, like, because I'm various versions of mentally ill, but I'll sometimes just kind of swing out into the air because I've got an involuntary spasm. And the idea of Stefan just swinging wide on the bench for whatever reason, and he would have just hit Valerie and been
Now,
like,
why
holy
would
shit.
your mind go there?
Because I was like, she's sitting so close to him. She's right next to him. She's just invisible and inaudible. If he were to just stretch out his arm, even if he were to just do a big stretch because he was feeling kind of sore from sitting there for an hour brooding, he would have knocked her and been like, holy shit. I'm just saying it was very bold of her.
My mind goes more towards Valerie, bold. Like, Stefan's sitting on his own. There's nobody around. What if he farts in the middle of your soliloquy? What a mood killer that would be.
Also, would you be able to love him the same way? Let's be real. It's been 100 years. You pour out your heart and then he just farts in the wind. Oh, God. Anyway, at the end of the episode, we see Valerie at Whitmore College, where she's found Oscar. Well, she's not at the college. It's a college town that I guess is also called Whitmore. So, she's found Oscar, the remaining heretic. We just met him this episode and he's been chained up by Damon to exchange him for Elena's coffin. I don't know.
Yeah, Elena's coffin.
He's been off on an errand for Lily, which we now learn in this conversation between Valerie and Oscar was finding and bringing back Julian. Valerie learns this and she's like, yeah, I know you, Oscar. You're very smart. You'll use Julian to leverage your freedom from Lily to go out and do your own thing. Because Oscar's this free spirit party boy. He no longer wants to be part of the family.
He's not that smart because it's only after she said that he's like, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think I'll do that.
that.
I think she's implying that's the solution you would have gotten to. I just got there 3 steps ahead because I am smarter. You are smart. I'm giving you that, but I am smarter than you. Sorry. But she says, Oscar, you're a sweet soul and you've been good to me. And then she punches through his chest and grabs his heart. And she says, but Julian is the devil and I can't let Lily bring him back. And she rips out Oscar's heart, killing him.
At the time, I was like, damn, girl, overreact much? Maybe explain your side of things. But I'm like, you are a traumatized survivor. I understand.
I mean, yeah, this is her abuser
somewhat.
who beat her so hard she lost a baby,
She's not thinking clearly in this moment. I'm just like, girl, I think if you had a rational mind, Oscar didn't need to die. This was not the way to go. It also hurts her further on in the series when it comes to
that's true
getting her story across to other people.
That is the difficulty that comes with Valerie later on, is that and it brings up some interesting things too about being a survivor and being a victim and stuff, but that because she is often very secretive, sometimes deceptive. As we see now, she has killed Oscar, effectively her brother, but they'll say friend later on. It's up in flux. It's there's a lot of little things that come along throughout the season where it becomes difficult for people in future to believe her when she's telling the truth, which is ooh, yeah, that's fair, but also, guys, this is a pretty dire situation.
Yeah.
Next episode, it's the following morning, and while Valerie is making breakfast, apparently for Oscar's return, which is oof, girl. Lily comes in to speak to her, and she's like, okay, let's talk. I know about your tryst with Stefan in the 1860s.
I think doesn't Enzo come in first? Because it's the...
I was fully moving past that. And you didn't need to mention that he'd been present. I don't see how it's
It was just annoying to me that Enzo sometimes will be so shrewd about who everyone else is and what they're up to. And
that's coming up.
Oh, okay.
But truly in this moment, I was like, it is so unimportant that Enzo is in this breakfast scene. I don't give a shit.
She's very good at lying. He's like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm making breakfast because Oscar's coming home today. Haven't you heard? And I'm like, girl, with a straight face.
With a straight
face.
Dead. So cold. She said, listen, you choose your side, and if you can't deal with it, then just stop caring. That's why I noted that earlier, because I was like, it's gonna come into play later on. This is how she has to operate. Oh, Valerie. She tries to play it off with Lily, and Lily's like, oh, is that why you kept his journal? And also you broke his heart when you said you were going back to him? Oop. You're telling me it's not serious?
She's like, it was puppy love. We were kids. And she's like, really? This you? She pulls up the old tweets.
Leather bound. And Valerie's like, oh, I was a foolish human back then. And she tells Lily that she's sorry. And Lily does that mom thing. You've brought it up many a time. Oof. She's like, I'm only going to ask you this once. Is there anything else you want to tell me? And Valerie says, I have nothing to hide.
The secondhand chills that I got.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no, don't say that.
They don't often let Lily be genuinely terrifying, but in that moment, it is chilling. Later, Enzo, divining truly out of nowhere, has figured out that Valerie killed Oscar. Apparently, because she came home late the previous night. Not sure why that concerns him. She doesn't have
I think he heard her sneaking out and then coming back late.
Okay.
Don't know what that has to do with him.
Right. She's living life. Based on that, went to go check town surveillance and saw Valerie on the road to Whitmore, which
in
is
a stolen car.
Apparently, Whitmore is a cul-de-sac, and that road could not lead anywhere else. And apparently, it was in a stolen car. Where would she get a car of her own? She doesn't have license and registration. What are we talking about?
And what town surveillance is giving you a clear picture of her face in a moving car at night?
Like,
in this one-horse town.
Mystic Falls apparently so up to date on their technology in 2014 actually, where they actually are. Yeah, he threatens to tell Lily, and so Valerie has to explain, oh, Oscar knew too much. They're trying to bring back this monster, Julian. And Enzo's like, who's Julian? And she's like, oh, so you don't even know. And there's this really interesting thing that happens a number of times with Valerie where you see her shift from being emotional, like genuinely emotional, because as he threatens to tell Lily, she becomes emotional, like this idiot who now lives in our house is about to confess all my greatest sins to my mother figure who will then like abandon me forever. But the moment it's like, oh, I have a step above this idiot, her face shifts. You can see the gears turning in her head and she starts to smirk. And she's like, well, you'll want to keep Julian as far away as possible. Assuming, of course, you want Lily to one day love you the same way you love her. And it's like, Valerie! How do you do it, girl? I find it so fascinating. But yeah, she tells him this, plants the seed in Enzo's head, and it does successfully stop him from ratting her out. Later, the Heretics manage to get back Oscar. He's seemingly been resurrected by the Phoenix Stone on Bonnie's end. Enzo finds Valerie at the Mystic Grill drinking alone. She's like, well, you know, Oscar's alive again. My life is up in smoke. He's gonna tell the truth. Enzo then tells her he wants to help her prevent Julian from walking back into Lily's life. So she's like, okay, well, now we have a plan. That rolls into the next episode. Enzo stays behind to make sure Oscar doesn't talk, but he seems to have amnesia, so honestly, the easier job in this whole setup. Valerie, meanwhile, is driving to where Oscar kept Julian, but she runs into Damon Salvatore, who's parked off in the middle of the road, as he does. He tries to leverage Valerie, but she uses magic to drop him, like, immediately. And then Stefan comes by and is like, now what's going on here? What follows then is a car scene where Stefan's driving, Valerie's sitting shotgun, and Damon is in the back seat, as always, just being Damon. The song that they used to transition to this scene, it's a song called Girl Crush by New Politics, which is a Danish rock band I'd never heard of, but I do know the song, just by the first line.
A Danish rock band you've never heard of, as opposed to all the Danish rock bands that you are a super fan of.
I know two Danish rock bands. One is, well, maybe not a rock band, but what's the band that does Once I Was 7 Years Old?
Oh,
I'm pretty sure they're Danish.
I forgot the name, but yes, I do know that song.
And then I think Bullet for My Valentine, but they might be Welsh. Hold on.
Very different ethnic groups there and nationalities.
They're all Europeans.
You know what? Actually, fair. Y'all look at us and you're like, African. You know, it's
right.
Just Africa. That country, Africa. So why not?
They are Welsh. That's my bad. The one Danish band I know. But the title struck me as weird. It's called Girl Crush. And I was like, oh, this band is all male? But then I listened to the whole song and it's about a guy grappling with the fact that the girl he likes is bisexual and not exclusive to him. So, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's an interesting setup. It's like, he's like, oh, we're hanging out with this girl, had fun all night, she kissed me, and then the next night when we hung out, she kissed this other girl. She has a girl crush, and I'm like, no, I think she's just bi. I think she just likes that girl, and I don't know what your issue is. The whole song is just him, like, shaking, crying, throwing up because this girl's hanging out with this other girl, and they're, like, having a fun time. And it's like, this isn't even your girlfriend. This is a girl you met one night prior. Bizarre.
He's the guy Gaga is singing to in Poker Face.
Wait, contextualize that for me, please.
No, not even, because I think Poker Face is about Gaga's bisexuality.
Oh, okay.
And she has said that.
I thought it was about poker.
No, not at all. It's about her feeling like she was having to hide and grapple with the fact that while she was with this guy, she was thinking about girls.
Cute.
Yeah.
But Girl Crush implies a platonic quality that I'm just like,
yeah, which is also weird. I'm like, why would you call it a girl? I'm like, this is just a crush. She just happens to be queer.
That's why I'm like, he's just deluding himself. Anyway, the first line of that song, as the scene focuses on Valerie and Stefan, is, I still can't get over the sex we had.
Okay, so even by season 7, we were still having very on-the-nose lyrics.
So crazy. Damon's doing his usual shtick. He's annoying everybody with information they already know, because we need to set the exposition for this episode. They stop to fill up the car, and then Damon's like, okay, how are we gonna kill Julian? Valerie's like, are you dumb? Julian's dead. He's been dead since 1903.
Which I'm like, Valerie, how would they know this? You're being unfair in this moment. Like, let's not treat people like they're stupid because they didn't have access to the info you had access to. Like...
But that's her whole thing. She loves to be like, you have less information from me and are therefore a fool. And I love it.
I was like, sweetie, I think because Julian is your personal villain, you assume he's more famous than he really is. Nobody else has ever heard of this man. Well, why would they know that he's been dead for 100 years?
She intimates in this episode he is apparently quite familiar. Not by name necessarily, but by his acts. There are 2 different massacres that he's committed that are known, I guess, in vampire circles. It's the St. Malo massacre, which we know, of course, is where Reyna's family was. And then it's the Black Sea massacre, where he wiped out an entire coast of people living there.
Let me ring up Klaus Michelson in the French Quarter of New Orleans and have him be like, girl, do you know how many massacres I've committed? And that's not a rhetorical question. Do you know? Because I don't, because I've done so many I lost count.
And you'll also see Julian and be like, who's this Dallas dishwater trying to be doppelganger, thinking he can take my place? Because that is what they're trying to do with Julian. They can try and say otherwise, but I see it.
We see it, because why did he need to be British? Honestly.
You know? British, blonde, like, don't lie in my face. Yeah, Valerie's like, you stupid idiots, he's already dead. And we're trying to find his body. Damon then goes to do something else. I don't know what. So Valerie and Stefan go into this warehouse that's filled with coffins looking for Julian's body. Stefan's being catty because he, of course, thinks Valerie was just spying on him for Lily back in the day. But he's also like, you put that repulsion spell on Caroline and now I can't touch her. What's that about? And she's like, what do you want me to say? That I'm pure evil and I like watching people suffer? And Stefan's like, if yes, then yes. And then they find a coffin that's been spelled shut. And Valerie siphons it and they open it to find Julian's body. First time we see Julian, other than the flashback.
He's not desiccated, and she says his body's been preserved with magic. And I was like, wait, is that a side effect of the sword? Or did someone do that? Like, did someone go out?
Never answered.
Oh, no.
As far as I can remember.
What happens when Stefan and Damon are on the receiving end of the sword? Do they desiccate?
Well, they're only in the sword for a couple months, and Bonnie is there, so that's also unclear.
Gosh.
I'd have to go back and check the dialogue, if there's any dialogue that alludes to Bonnie preserving them herself, but from my memory, unclear.
It was the Bennett bloodline from Ayana preserving his body with a spell.
I'm channeling all our sisters. Esther? But yeah, Damon's like, he doesn't look dead to me. And Valerie says he's preserved by magic. And then she spits on Julian's body, which I love. Oh, something makes me so happy about spitting on somebody who's not worth your breath of air.
And it won't be the last time she spits on him either.
Nope. It's very British too, but not the British I thought she would come from. She gives very RP. She doesn't feel like Northern British to me, so I'm like, interesting. I guess she's from the 1800s. She then wastes zero time and douses him completely with petrol that she got while they were filling up.
Honestly, good for her, because lesser characters would have stood about talking for another 10 minutes and wasting the time that they have.
She said, no, this man needs to burn in hell. It doesn't work. Enter Nora and Mary Louise, who were in Visiquade next to the coffin nearby. And then Lily and Beau walk in as well. And the lesbians are like, Lily, Valerie was trying to burn your beloved. And it's like, oh, well, shit. And so Lily's like, why would you do this? And Valerie says he's a monster and things will only be worse with him back. And Lily would never have listened to her because she's always blinded by Julian's love. Lily then slaps her across the face, which isn't great.
Stefan is like, whoa, okay, let's not get violent here, which I'm like, oh, Stefan. you.
He's like, okay, we get it. You're upset. There's no need for all that. And it's like literally a scene ago, they were being hostile to each other. But because he's so good-natured and sweet, Valerie tries to plead with Beau as he's taking the coffin away, but he like pushes her aside. She then tries to plead with the Salvatore brothers. And she's like, Julian didn't make Lily better like she's claiming. In fact, he made her vindictive and cruel. Who do you think gave Kai the idea to put Elena under the Sleeping Beauty spell? Which is a shock to everyone because we did not know that prior to this moment. And I think that's a bit of a retcon.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a retcon.
But it is interesting. It does make it interesting of like, oh, Lily. My goodness. Certainly she's been vindictive before. She divulged to Elena about the cure when Damon was hiding it from her.
Elena,
so it's like, she's
here's
not
the
above
cure.
it.
Since Damon was never going to give it to you.
I'll leave you two to chat. It's like she was going to blow his shit up with that move if Elena wasn't insane by that season. So Lily's not above vindictiveness, but I do think this is like added after the fact.
Certainly this season, she's like, dump Elena's coffin in the quarry or in the reservoir, whatever. She can spend the next 60 years of her life underwater, which I'm like, Elena's asleep, not temporarily dead. I think she still needs to breathe. So crazy.
Breathe, Lily. I guess because she's preserved with the magic.
I guess since she doesn't need to like eat or anything, so I guess fine.
The magic's sustaining her, it's fine.
And then she tells Damon that story about the toy soldiers that she took away from him when he wouldn't admit that he broke her vase as a child. And he's like, Elena's not a toy soldier. And she's like, Malcolm was no vase.
Ooh, so good. I love that it's always in response to something too. Lily's not somebody who will go on the offensive, but if you cross her, she will spite you. She will absolutely spite you. Rarely ever a physical fighter. Lily. You don't see her in a lot of like combat scenarios.
Yeah.
But she will orchestrate some shit to ruin your life. And I love that.
It's very much this like traditional Western mother thing. Because I want to tell you, in Africa, oh no, our mothers...
You're getting slapped upside the head, let me tell you. You're getting a switch on the back, on the legs. You're getting a mixing spoon on the shins.
Whatever they can find.
The closest.
But very Western thing to be like, I'm not going to hit you or anything. I'm more of the parent who's going to be like, okay, take away your toys, ground you, give you this withering glare, teach you a lesson without having to be the parent who's like, we're gonna beat you.
Yeah, Damon then tries to kill Lily, but Beau throws him back and explodes every coffin in the room, which is cool. And then they dip. Stefan is pulling a bunch of wooden shards from Valerie, who got knocked down, and she's like, it's pointless. Julian's gonna kill her anyway, and if not Julian, then Lily. Or the other way around, I can't remember. Stefan says, yeah, it may be pointless, but I'm not the type to leave someone hanging. Which is very much a jab at her.
Damn, Stefan.
She does say, whoa, subtle. And he's like, I don't hate you. I just wanted to know the truth. And now I do. And Valerie is like, no, you don't. And then finally tells him the actual truth of what happened, that she invisiquated away last episode. Stefan then takes her back to Mystic Falls. And he's like, I'm sorry you had to go through that alone. I'm furious that something I could have had was taken from me. And now I want to kill Julian. So I'm going to do that. And that's the end of that episode. The next one is Best Served Cold. We discussed this one in the Caroline episode. Caroline surprise visits Stefan in Mystic Falls. And while they're talking in the living room, Valerie comes down in a towel.
Gosh, the Lexi move. Caroline is now Elena. Except now it is awkward because it's like, well, we can't say, oh, there's nothing that's ever happened between us because they do have history.
As we've intimated, she was my first love. But also, unlike Lexi, this was intentional, I feel like. There's no logical reason that Valerie left, because she left the shower. The distance from the shower to the living room is enough with her vampire ears. And even if it's a switch on, switch off situation and she wasn't using her vampiring, she must have heard that Stefan was speaking to Caroline in the living room.
Yeah.
And she chose to walk in there with a towel.
So I'm like, why are you not getting dressed in the bedroom? The bedrooms, which we know have ensuite bathrooms because of when Catherine showered in Damon's room.
Oh, well, this is Caroline's house.
Oh, it's Caroline's house.
We won't get into that.
Wait, she's in?
Yeah. Yeah. It is so insane to do this in her
Caroline's house.
Caroline gets caught up to speed with what's happened. And of course, Caroline, a caring, patient partner, she's like, we'll help Valerie find a new identity and disappear from here if Stefan's plan to kill Julian doesn't work out. There's a number of good scenes where Caroline is doing the most. She's trying to sell Valerie on different places she could go because she wants her away from her man.
She's like, you can move to Indonesia, drink out of a coconut. I was like, is that an Indonesian stereotype, Caroline? Watch yourself.
Whoa.
Valerie is like, and be 9,000 miles away from your boyfriend in either direction. And I was like, I don't know if that's true. Later on, they will claim in another scene that obviously you're going to get to.
Yeah.
They'll say Indonesia's like on the other side of the planet. And I'm like, I looked it up. Apparently, I couldn't, because Mystic Falls doesn't exist. But apparently, the other side of the world to Virginia is more like northeastern Australia. No, sorry, northwestern Australia. But that is pretty close to Indonesia. So maybe
it's fairly close. Yeah.
She's like, we need to give you a fake name because Valerie Tulle is too noticeable. I mean, she's like, you could be Matilda Pettigrew from Liverpool, England. I like Caroline.
Which I'm like, she does not have a Scouse accent. This is a terrible idea, Caroline.
I was like, crazy that you think Matilda Pettigrew is a forgettable name.
Right? Versus Valerie Tulle. Matilda, the most Harry Potter-ass name you've ever heard in your life. You think that's not gonna pop up? Come on.
She was trying to give her an old maiden type of name.
Pretty much, I'd like to let Caroline know. So it's a lot of that, and it's so much fun because these two are like opposite personalities. Caroline's very like bubbly, outspoken. Even when she's being catty, it's like dialed up to a 10, the energy and the like speed at which she's speaking, whereas Valerie's like at a constant one, drone talk. It's great. There's a moment where she tells Caroline, because Caroline's been speaking very like patronizingly, that you're handling me like I'm a wounded bird, like I'm some victim, but I'm not, which I thought was interesting because of, and I speak as someone who is not an expert on or had experienced it, but you see sometimes the language of abuse and how sometimes people will chafe against the word victim because maybe it's associated with like a lack of power or agency, and maybe people don't see themselves that way. I'm not sure. Like the idea of I'm not a victim being maybe sometimes a sense of denialism about the reality of the situation that happened.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's where I just found that exact wording interesting. It could also be a sort of distancing thing from what happened, because she does then also say, once Stefan's killed Julian, I can put this whole mess behind me. So it could also just be like, no, I'm not a victim. That was just one thing that happened 100 years ago. I'm fine. We're moving on. And it's like, no, girl, I think it's really traumatic. I think you're still feeling the effects of it right now.
I guess that's why we use terms like survivor sometimes in certain contexts. I don't know if it's Valerie or one of the other girlies who says, Bo, don't hide your scar. You shouldn't be ashamed. You're a survivor. And another scene when Bo is touching his scar, which, not a Bo episode, but gosh, just listen to the Bo episode, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, you're probably going to get to it, that Caroline's like, Oh, what are you alluding to?
Yes, so she says, put this whole mess behind her, and Caroline's like, what mess? Valerie's like, oh, the reason I'm afraid of Julian, the whole horror story, surely Stefan must have told you. And then when Caroline doesn't say anything...
She's like, I asked Stefan not to tell anyone, but I assumed he would tell his girlfriend, which I'm like, all right.
She does that shift again from like the very emotional, like we're talking about this real thing that happened to me, to like, oh, interesting, you're lacking some context and info. Smirk. It's so funny once you've seen it. And she's like, well, I thought he would tell you, but... I guess his loyalty is certainly attractive. And Caroline's like, okay, what is it that Stefan hasn't told me? And she's like, never mind. What were you saying? My new name was going to be...
Matilda Pettigrew? Matilda? I like that, yeah. And I was like, you definitely don't. Don't lie.
So good.
It's so funny. And I will say, Valerie, I know there's certain things you might tell a person that you assume they tell their partner if it's like, depending on the relationship. And it's like, oh, maybe it's like your spouse. Obviously, you are sharing a life, whatever. But I think with something this serious...
Oh, yeah. No, yeah.
If somebody said, please don't tell anyone, you're not going to be like, yeah, but of course I assumed that you would tell your partner.
No, fully a power move.
And certainly if Stefan had thought to himself, I assume I'm allowed to tell my girlfriend that I just started dating.
Stefan in no universe would assume that, bless him. Later, though, is when she goes with Caroline over to Rick's house, where he's in a storyline about resurrecting his dead wife, Jo, who turned out to be a vampire spirit named Florence that they put in Jo's body by accident. And she's now dying because she's incompatible. Florence in the machine. She's incompatible with Jo's human body. So that's all very sad. Valerie then watches Rick's wedding video while they're in the other room. And they come in and see this. She's watching when Kai kills Jo and attacks the whole Gemini coven. And they start chanting a spell that she recognizes. And she says that spell was to transfer the babies that Jo was carrying to someone else. And she, as we know, does the locator spell at the end of the episode using Rick's blood and finds that the twins are now in Caroline.
Oh, before she sits down to watch the video, because I was trying to remember why she was watching that video in the first place. It's because she had been shooed away by Caroline for her lack of tact.
Yes.
When she was like, oh, the reason that this person is in Jo's body is dying is because you shoved a vampire soul inside a human body. It was fine when you put a vampire soul in Oscar's body, but I guess a human body can't handle the essence of a vampire. So now you're literally decomposing. And Caroline pulls her aside and she's like, okay, thanks. We're aware of that. Like, and she's like, what did I do? I literally just told her how it was.
I just
and she's
told
like, yeah,
you the truth.
but you could have been a bit more delicate. Like, that was Rick's dead wife. He was hoping to get her back.
Watching his wife die a second time, maybe read the room. And Valerie's generally like, oh, yeah, I suppose so.
She can be so saucy and vindictive when she wants to be, usually towards Mary Lou and Nora or towards Caroline when it's like their tug of war over Stefan. But in this moment, it's hilarious that she genuinely wasn't trying to be hurtful. She was just spitting facts with no filter.
Just giving them some witchy facts, just being like, oh, yeah, you asked to know what's happening. I can tell you. This is Gemini shit. It's like, oh, no, please. Valerie then becomes very involved in this storyline. Not actively, she keeps getting roped in, but she is very interested in Caroline being pregnant with these babies, which Caroline is in denial of. The next episode is that weird blood farm storyline that's happening that will very quickly stop mattering. I don't know what that was about. I guess they were just like highlighting how dangerous Julian is.
I can never remember whenever I'm doing the rewatch because I won't like watch the full episode, so I never know what that was about.
I don't think it comes back. I think they uncompel all the people who were in the blood farm and send them off.
Yeah, because they call Valerie over and they're like, can you siphon the compulsion out of these people? Which I'm like, wow, what a useful power this would have been several seasons ago. You can siphon away compulsion. And then Valerie's like, you want me to siphon the compulsion out of everyone here? Do you have any idea how long that will take? And Caroline's like, I'm guessing the amount of time it takes to siphon the compulsion out of one person multiplied by everyone who's here.
I love them so much. They're so good.
And while
she does it though.
Yeah. When Matt shows up, she's like, oh, for 2 seconds, it looks as though she's trying to keep the pregnancy thing a secret because she's like, not much is going to blurt this out. She's like, are you sure that a person like in your condition should be out and about here? And Matt's like, what? And she's like, nothing, it's fine, I'm fine. There's nothing going on. Then she's like, I wouldn't call a pregnant vampire nothing. And I was like, girl, the subtlety lasted all of 2 seconds. And by this point, obviously, Caroline's had the pregnancy test, which was a negative because of cloaking magic.
Precisely.
It's sweet that after Bo shows up and attacks them, she's like trying to protect Caroline. And then she makes it clear, it's not really about you, it's about the babies inside.
She's like, those are Gemini babies, bitch. I know that coven didn't treat me well, but I want them to have a good shot. And your stupidity is not going to stop me.
And I'm sure a lot of that was her being like, oh, well, nobody could save me and my baby. I'm not going to leave this pregnant girl here at the mercy of her enemies. Even though Caroline is like, I am not pregnant. The test was negative.
In fact,
and she's like, take it again.
Caroline tells her, the test was negative. You keep saying this. And it's like, maybe you got the spell wrong. It has been 100 years since you heard any Gemini magic. And Valerie
she's like, maybe protect the babies and kill the psycho. Sounds really similar in witch Latin.
Exactly. It's like, Caroline, come on, girl. But Valerie's like, I would never forget that spell because that's a spell I tried myself to save my own baby. And that's when she tells Caroline that truth.
And she's like, I didn't have a coven to back me up, so I wasn't strong enough. But I'm like, but wait, in the scene, your pendant had already been destroyed and you had no magic. So when were you trying to cast this spell? is what I
Maybe
want to
she
know.
sucked a bit off of Julian while he was beating her to death.
Honestly, I wish she had done that
there.
because we see later on in the season when Nora attacks Bonnie that you can siphon a witch to unconsciousness.
Oh yeah.
So,
but that scene pisses me off because Bonnie really just sits there as that happens. And I'm like, you couldn't do one little motus? Damn. All right then. Blinded by the lesbian, and I get it. I get it.
A vampire is probably more sturdy than a witch, but I'm like, oh, Valerie, you should have like grabbed his ankle or something.
Yeah.
Probably had really long socks on, given the era.
I mean, you always think about the thing to do after the fact, right? Like in the
Yeah.
moment. How could you? Ugh, sucks. But maybe she got a little in and then tried to do that spell.
Yeah.
But yeah, Caroline is moved by this and then she agrees to do the test again. Oh, when Beau comes in and attacks them, Valerie does try to reason with him, but he doesn't hear it and he attacks. And so she invisiquays them. Love the invisiquay. It's such a good... that once they introduced Gemini cloaking, it shifted the game. And frankly, they don't use it enough, but that's just me. So they do a sonogram, which also comes up negative, but then Valerie rushes in at the end. And like I'm saying, it's like, duh, we're Gemini. We love to cloak things. She siphons Caroline's belly, and then the sonogram shows 2 bouncing bundles of fetus cells. The twins are alive. And then Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me, episode 8. This is the one where Stefan and Damon are enacting a final plan to kill Julian now that they've staged an intervention with Lily about his abusive ass and have gotten her on board. We first see Valerie with the Salvatore boys. When Caroline comes over, she is now preparing to tell Stefan that she's pregnant with Rick's babies by like a surrogacy situation that's just kind of happened. And she's not expecting to find other people there. So now she's like, oh, okay, how are we gonna do this? And Valerie has the tact to be like, Damon, let's go ahead. Stefan can catch up with us. Even Damon's like, what? No, what are you talking about? And she just pushes him out the door. So I really liked that. I appreciate that in this sort of like late first arc to middle arc, she becomes a lot better at reading the room and having just like, hey, let's head out and give these people a chance to talk, or like, let me try and approach you from a less hostile position. It's a nice little growth moment for her.
She might not be a girl's girl, but she's an ally to pregnant women.
An ally to pregnant women and fetuses everywhere. Go Valerie.
Leagues ahead of you know what's funny? Somebody else who's not a girl's girl in the spin-off show will suddenly become an ally to a pregnant woman. Rebecca Michelson.
Oh yeah.
But I think as we've said, in that show, she's much more of a girl's girl by default. So
Meanwhile, at the Heretic household, it's Nora and Mary Louise's anniversary, and Mary Louise has taken them away from this huge party that Julian's thrown for them. She's gone to this nice setup near some sort of body of water. I don't know what this is. Is it the creek? Is it the Willow Creek? Who knows? She proposes to Nora, put on the ring and everything. Valerie shows up and she's like, oh, I'm happy for you. And Mary Louise is like, what are you doing here besides destroying the greatest moment of my life? It's like, all right, you haven't seen her in... I guess she killed Oscar, but yeah, it's a lot. Valerie's like, well, we need to talk about the worst moment of my life. So let's get to chatting.
It's such a funny line in the sense that she is about to reveal some information that she needs to reveal to get them on her side. But it's like, oh, not you. I can imagine that from their point of view. It's like, why are you coming to draw attention away from our happy romantic moment?
That's what she says.
We want to get married, something we have not been able to do because we lived in the 1900s where it was illegal. And then you show up and the spirit of Elena Gilbert possesses you. And you're like, well, actually, we need to talk about my trauma and my pain.
That's what Mary Louise says. Because from there, they go to this like greenhouse and it's nighttime all of a sudden. I'm like, okay, I guess we needed to gather the people because Beau is also suddenly here. And Mary Louise is like, typical Valerie, always trying to steal the spotlight.
And I'm like, is she? I don't think that's a trait she's exhibited within the Heretics family.
She's ever done that. If anything, she melts into the background. You and your girlfriend are always doing the most.
I will say though, maybe Mary Lou and Nora feel as though Valerie doesn't appreciate the hardship of being in a visibly queer relationship, because in episode 1, when they hold hands in public and Mary Lou pulls away, Nora's like, Mary, it's the 21st century. We can hold hands now. And then it's like, oh yeah, awkward 1900s lesbians getting used to their freedom. And then Valerie appears behind them and is like, okay, enough of that. Can we cast a spell now and kill these people?
It's like, Valerie, I can't. You know what? You're right. This is a pattern now.
Valerie's one of those cis-het people who, from the safety of being cis and het, is like, nobody cares if you're gay. Because I don't care. I don't think anyone else cares.
Modern day, it can't be that bad. I think we're being dramatic, guys. It's like, oh boy. But Lily comes in and she's like, oi, just quiet down and listen. I think we need to listen to this girl. So Valerie then tells them about what Julian did to her. And Lily vouches for her and tells them that she is leaving Julian. She feels like she's finally woken up after a long dream. Beau steps up to Valerie and he stares very intently at her for like 10 seconds. And then his face softens and he pulls her into a hug. And Valerie starts sobbing, which, despite everything we've been saying, I do appreciate that moment because there's a lot of non-verbal kind of facial acting that the two of them are doing. That's really sweet.
If we'd given Beau more time and respect, we could have had a chance to really explore that relationship, that friendship.
Yeah, where do they come from? What's their dynamic? They don't get any scenes together. It's a shame. Also, how were they in the same coven? In the early 1800s. That's also curious.
Maybe they met after the fact?
And Oscar in that coven. No, they're all explicitly from the Gemini coven.
I mean, I don't know how far the Gemini coven expands.
That's the question, right? Because it's the Parker family, but then there's clearly a bunch of ancillary families.
Yeah.
So I guess it's
I guess at least one was black and one was Asian, so...
That's my interest, is that like the racial dynamics or the ethno-racial dynamics of the early 1800s and them being Geminis is just like, what's that about? How did it work for them? What was that experience? But of course, we're not interested in that, so...
Yeah, because it could have been... Because, I mean, the group has 2 POCs and 2 white queer people. It could have been very interesting to explore the nature of them being ostracized as these freaks of nature for being siphons within the witch context. But then also, how was it for the 2
socially
men who are like... clearly a minority in this coven of mostly white people. On top of that, maybe that could have fed into like how their family treated them when it's like, oh no, it's hard enough that we're like not white in this coven and now you come here and you're a siphon, bringing shame upon the family. But the story doesn't super care, so
really sucks. Yeah, Nora also steps up and gives Valerie a hug. And then she looks back at Mary Louise and is like, girl, what are you waiting for? Mary Louise is like, I'm a bit overwhelmed. And then after some coaxing, she does then go up and hug Valerie. And the 4 of them are like doing a nice little heretic hug. Lily then asks Beau to take her hand and brace her because back at the heretic house, the Salvatore brothers are beating Julian's ass. And last episode, he had gotten the heretics to magically link him and Lily to shield himself from harm. The bastard.
Yeah, as a loving boyfriend does.
As a loving boyfriend who is about 350 years older than his vampire bride is like, let's link you to me so that if they try to hurt me, it'll hurt you. So that'll dissuade your errant sons. It's like, wow, dude. Once Julian is subdued, they tie him up. He's trying to provoke Damon into releasing him, but Valerie quickly comes in and like clocks his tea. This bastard is like, aren't you a clever girl? It's a shame your little one would have had the same smarts. And I was just like, I understand he's a villain. Obviously he's a villain. And like, there's just something about like beating someone so badly that they lose their child and then to make fun of them about it after the fact that feels so satanic to me. That Julian is so... And especially as a villain who in the grand scheme of things means nothing. The goal to be this evil in your dialogue is truly a choice. And as you said, the second time she spits on him again. I love when Valerie spits on him. Because it's just like, yeah, that's what you're worth. She tells him to rot in hell, which we also love. Very Elena Core. Then Mary Louise comes in and she's like, what is this? As if we didn't just discuss the whole deal about Julian.
I was also confused by that line. I was like, didn't we go? Did you think we were just going to leave him? I thought...
Do you think we were going to give him a nice stern talking to? What do you think's happening?
I thought the implication was he has to die now. Like, what?
So that's the other thing, is that they're not even killing him at this point. They've tied him up and the heretics are here to unlink him from Lily. And then they're going to dip. Lily was just like, I'm leaving Julian. And then thereafter, whatever happens to him is his business. They're not trying to kill him in this scene. And Mary Lou walks in and is like, what is this? It's like, what do you think?
She saw the spit on his face and she was like, now, I didn't sign up for this.
I didn't sign up for spitting on our father figure. And I'm like, more of y'all need to do that, in fact. Some of y'all dads suck. So then she starts questioning Valerie's story because Mary Louise only believes in the perfect victim.
That's what it is. You need to have a spotless track record.
Apparently, if you slept with a man in secret and you maybe killed your foster brother, all of a sudden you can't have been beaten up by a 500-year-old
I mean, she
vampire
did kill her foster brother, but she's like, you lied about your relationship with Stefan. You lied to us about killing Oscar. And I'm like, okay.
It's like, those are not the same thing, babe. Those are not equivalent. So she's like, what else can she lie about? And I'm like, I think we all know what's going on here. I think you're being awful and I don't care. I think that earlier that episode, Julian had given her an old-ass ring to propose to Nora with. So truly off of that is like all of this now. And I'm like, I don't think...
We do see Julian has her wrapped around his finger, though. Like, he's able to clock when Nora is making her feel underappreciated. He's very good at manipulating her. I don't know, it's the blonde kinship that they share.
No, but you're absolutely right. It's an abuse that she's not realizing she is a part of, that she has been made to be in the like fawn position at this moment, now that this has all been revealed.
She's the golden child.
Sucks.
And Valerie's the scapegoat. But I'm also like, surely in your mind, Mary Lou, after everything you've been through, you're wondering, okay, why would Valerie kill Oscar out of nowhere?
Right.
Because what she has said, at least it's an explanation. She was horribly traumatized and so afraid that Julian would come back that she was willing to murder her sort of foster brother / friend in order to keep him away.
It's like, I guess she thinks she killed him for fun?
Yeah, if you don't believe that part of the story, it's like, okay, so she just killed Oscar for fun and then lied. Because I'm like, you bring it up. You're like, you lied about killing Oscar. I'm like, yeah, okay, explain to me why you think she killed Oscar. Like, walk me through that if it's got nothing to do with Julian.
And it's like, why is she lying about Julian now? For fun again? What's
she's
the
even
motivation?
like, I would never lie about something like this. And she's like, well, how do I know? And I'm like, all right. I think as a person who was living in the 1900s and was, I assume, a closeted lesbian to most of society, I think you should be able to appreciate someone having to be dishonest to protect themselves. Why are you now acting like...
The necessity of secrecy.
You know?
Right.
She's like, no, lying is this cardinal sin, and now that you've done this, you are forever damned, and I can never trust you again.
It's honestly crazy. I understand. She's having her moment where it's like her happy little family is unraveling, so this is how she's dealing with it, but it's like, screw you, Mary Louise, I really don't care.
Also, shouldn't you trust your partner's judgment? She believes her.
Right. That's the thing that's insane. Nora isn't in the room when this is happening, but Nora has made very clear she's on Valerie's side. And in fact, after this, she dumps Mary Louise back. So I don't know where she thought she was getting off. But Damon calls Mary Louise Nancy Grace, which is wild. That's like a TV crime journalist who I think is still doing some stuff in present day. He's like, all right, Nancy Grace, calm it down. And Mary Louise knocks him out with an aneurysm spell and then snaps Valerie's neck and sets Julian free.
And Julian's like, and that is why you've always been my favorite, Mary Lou. And I'm like, ugh.
And from that response, she didn't clock, oh no, this man's evil? I'm baffled by that. When Lily comes into the room later, she sees Julian has chained up Damon and Valerie to 2 chairs. And he tells her, oh, you need to pick which of the 2 will die. It's the symbolic choice between her old family and her new family. Because enough is enough.
I guess Mary Louise just walked away and let him do that? Because she's not there.
She says, I can't be in here. I have to go. And Nora catches up to her and is like, what are you talking about? We have to unlink Lily and Julian. And then Nora finds out what's happened. And Nora is like, oh, I actually don't know who you are at all. And this kind of disgusts me. Take your engagement ring back. But then Nora also leaves, which is like, Nora, go help.
She was upset about the breakup. She takes off the ring and she's like, this doesn't represent our love. It represents Julian's ability to manipulate us.
It's like, okay, Julian is now free in the other room. He's gonna kill somebody, please. I was so baffled by Nora leaving as well, but I was like, all right, we've got enough problems.
Where was Bo? I mean, they kind of all just dipped.
Where is ever Bo? If we're being honest. So, yeah, Julian gives Lily this ultimatum. At some point, Valerie calls for her and like, Lily, please. And Lily brushes her face and she's like, you're such a strong girl. I'm so sorry I didn't see it sooner.
Julian is very much like, oh, you've repeatedly wanted to have your sons and your heretic children at the same time. You can't have it all, Lily. You must pick. And it's like, all right.
It's like, why not?
I don't see what any of that has to do with you, Julian, frankly.
Right.
Because now this isn't even about your relationship, which is actually what's at stake here. You're now talking about her relationship with her 2 sets of children.
Yeah, it's funny he's positioning this as though beyond this point and this ultimatum, she would still be with him. I find that really fascinating. She also gives an apology to Damon before turning to Julian and saying, actually, I can pick them both. This is when she stakes herself in the chest because she thinks it will kill Julian through their link. But as it turns out, Mary Louise has already unlinked them.
Which I'm like,
so
how did she do that so quickly when we weren't able to do that with just Lily present? We had to get Julian in the vicinity, take 5 years for everyone to gather in the room and undo the spell, during which Mary Lou had already showed up and freed him. I'm like,
I don't know where everyone was, to be honest, because we were all in the same room at some point before the plan to catch Julian. I don't know why we all didn't then go en masse to where Julian was kept and immediately do the spell. Everyone scatters for whatever reason and then drip feeds into this room.
They drip feed in once Lily is dying.
Right. It's like, guys, where were you? Were you all walking there? I don't know. That bastard is like, you silly fool girl, I've already unlinked us. I'm like, you need to disappear into the most sub-level of hell. He does run away, like the coward he is. And Lily slowly dies from splinters in her chest, while the rest... I was trying to say that seriously.
When you say it like that, from splinters in her chest, it truly is the writers being like, A, we don't have any more werewolves or hybrids left. B, we've used the whole lycanthropy angle too many times at this point to slowly kill a vampire. So now we're just going to say, if splinters are stuck inside your heart and it's too deep for someone to get them out, you'll slowly die the traditional
I know
wood
they're
way.
saying that, like, they're in the bloodstream and they're traveling to her heart is what they're suggesting. But I'm like, damn.
I don't know if your
That's all
bloodstream
it takes?
could pump
Okay.
splinters through your vessel.
That's what I'm saying. How small could they be that your blood is pumping them toward? You also manage to hit the ones that are going towards heart and not away from heart, because all your shit moves in two different directions to get to the rest of your body.
Like,
So I'm like, the chances...
is there a core within your heart that the wood needs to reach before it kills
Right!
you?
What point is it getting to? How much of a splinter is enough to kill you dead? Or is it a number of very small splinters? What volume of wood is required to pierce your heart in order for you to die? So many questions.
I need a physics, chemistry, and biology course on the magics within this world, because they are baffling at times.
So the rest of the heretics have to say goodbye. They all say it one by one. And Valerie tells her she forgives Lily for loving Julian because Lily just wanted to love them all, and there's no sin in that. She kisses Lily on the forehead and leaves after telling Damon that she only has moments left and he needs to make the most of them. Which he doesn't, so yeah. It's fine. You know, we discussed it.
Also, I don't think Mary Louise is there, because Julian finds her later and is like, oh no, Lily's dead. And she's like, what?
And it's like, what did you expect, girl? God damn. Julian sobbing, being like, she thought it would kill me, not knowing we weren't linked. She sacrifices. I was like, I need you to burn in hell.
And then I'm like, I'm also like, you're presenting this story to Mary Lou in a certain way. I would love for her to ask you, why hadn't you immediately told Lily that you were unlinked?
Right.
Because I know why you didn't do it, Julian, but why? Surely Mary Louise should ask you why.
Mary Lou. Then finally, for this first arc for Valerie, episode 9, Cold as Ice, we see in a flash forward, because if you'll remember, this is the time jump season. Stefan has been on the run in the future because there is the Huntress Rainer Cruz, who he seems to be running from. And it seems that Valerie and Stefan are romantically involved again. Of course, from other flashes forward, we've seen Caroline and Stefan aren't together. Caroline is now engaged to be married with Rick. We also see in present day Valerie at Lily's funeral. It's just her and Nora from the remaining heretics. Mary Louise isn't here for obvious reasons. And Beau apparently couldn't bring himself to say goodbye. So
they were like, we're not paying this actor for another scene today. He doesn't even get dialogue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Damon is rudely like, I'm sure he just couldn't find the words. And I was like, that's actually very ableist, Damon.
It's not the first time Stefan says something offside in like episode 3 too, so I guess the Salvatores, not allies to the disabled. Valerie speaks over Lily's coffin, and she says that Lily knew her at her brightest and darkest, and no matter her mood, she always saw the light. And she says she'll miss her.
That's really sweet, because she does often seem so like baseline in a dark mood, a cloud hanging over her head.
And then every now and then it's like, oh, what a kind thought or a kind action from Valerie. That's really lovely. You do have the capacity.
Yeah.
It is nice.
Her vampire mommy was like, I see you. I see you. She is her vampire mommy because she was turned with her blood.
Yes, she's quite literally. I mean, vampirely speaking, she is all of their vampire mummies because they established that all the heretics were turned with Lily's blood.
Oh, was it Lily's blood? Okay. I just remember that
it was Julian's intentions, but it was Lily's blood.
Yeah, when she comes out to the rest of them, she's like, once he saw that I was a heretic and how powerful I was, that's why he wanted to turn the rest of you. We're his army, not his family.
Yes, which is great. Great line. Stefan notes that she's brought cream violets for him, which is that flower that he was sent to fetch in 18 whatever. They say 1858 is when Lily died.
Now that...
So now it's like...
is...
Right?
Now that's 5 years before 1863. That's even more confusing.
Right.
Can these writers just not do maths?
I don't understand. Unless we're suggesting she didn't die until a year later. I don't know.
But he says he was 10 when she died. So he would have had to be living, 16? So that would have been like 1857? Someone didn't carry the one.
Unless there's someone on the wiki, which that's not a shock to me in any capacity. Stefan is very touched that she remembered this flower, because again, this was 150 years ago. Yeah, 160 years ago. Then they stare at each other for a few seconds too long. And it's like, oh, now that we've set up in the future that something's going to happen, we've got to now go back and be like, where did it begin? It's like, all right. Mary Louise tries to accost Valerie when she goes back to the house to fetch her things and leave. And it's like, girl, have you not done enough?
Wild.
Even now. She's like, have you seen Nora? Because again, Nora dumped her ass after she betrayed them. And she then tells Valerie this is all her fault, actually, that their whole family is falling apart and collapsing. And Valerie says, yeah, if only I hadn't fallen in love and placed my pregnant womb in front of Julian's boot. Which is
and then Mary Louise is like, oh, so you're sticking to that story, are you? Yeah. And I was like, girl, I'm actually tired of you. You're actually being childish at this point. This is a little kid throwing a tantrum and I'm over it.
Lily has died for this and she's sticking to her story, frankly, and it pisses me off.
And I'm like, so in your mind, Mary Louise, you are so intelligent that Beau, Lily, and your own girlfriend Nora have all been deceived by this venomous serpent Valerie, but you alone are able to see through the lies and the bullshit, and you know Julian's telling the truth. You who did not share a bed with him, you did not date him. The woman who was trying to build a life with him is like, no, I see him for who he is. And you're like, no, well, you know, I see him truly and fully. And I'm like, from what angle? You can't even claim that you're looking at him with pure lesbian eyes, because even your lesbian girlfriend is like, no, this man is a monster. So where do you get off? What foot are you standing on?
She's traumatized. She wants to hold the family together. I don't know. Honestly, I don't have an interest in, like, passing it out because she pisses me off.
She doesn't even care that much about Oscar because she only brings him up when she's taking digs at Valerie for killing him. I'm like, you don't seem that attached to him.
No. She even says, even if it's true, the timing is suspect. And that Valerie only fessed up now so that she could get Stefan back. Oof. And it's like, well...
Mary Louise.
Well...
She's one of those... She's from that side of Twitter. She was like, I don't know, guys. Like...
Why is she talking about it 10 years after it happened? It's like, why are you bringing it up
the number
now?
Of the number of false allegations that are made against men. Like, I read an article and I don't know, like...
People who make false allegations should go to jail. And it's like, that's already a law. You would know that if you weren't paying lip service. Already, if you defame somebody, there is a law to punish that. So shut the hell up.
And the fact that she thinks to herself, even if it's true, which she's saying, okay, let's say it's true, I'm still against you because you held on to your own trauma, how dare you, and only decided to monopolize it when you felt it would benefit you in getting Stefan back.
Right.
I'm like, huh? What?
Wild. The mind of Mary Louise.
Okay, fine. Who are you to decide what she does with her trauma?
With her shit. That's her business.
Also, you're stepping over the big fact that if it's true, that means Julian beat this woman into miscarriage and you're siding with him.
And lied to you and all of you. Fooled Lily. Lily's now dead. Again, Lily's dead because you released Julian. And you're not going to confront any of that. And that's what it is, right? It's that she can't confront any of that if it's true. So still I've got to put it on Valerie.
Mr. Julian, who's like, I wouldn't do something so revolting. I'm like, all right.
Valerie, oh, bless Valerie, weathering the storm, has that smirk on her face again for the first time in a long time and is like, I always thought you were the nice one, Mary Louise, that you had a heart, but it looks like I was wrong. And then she leans in and she says, Nora will blossom without you. Which is so... And just to point out separately, because that's so cold and brilliant, the immediate next scene is Nora going to Barney at that Christmas charity toy drive. So, very clear what they were trying to do in the writer's room, and I appreciate that.
If they'd been brave enough. You know,
Uh-huh.
But I think someone had an idea and they stopped that writer in their tracks and they were like, no. We are already the spiritual successor to Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Right.
We cannot have our team witch also be queer.
Right, exactly. We also can't have the lesbians date other people at some point. They must remain together and be married. It's like, okay.
Good gays are fully monogamous. They have one partner and one true love forever.
They're safely squared away in marriage, so their promiscuity is hidden within that union. It's like, okay, well, cool. And then she walks away, so that's cool. Later, Valerie's parked off somewhere and she gets a call from Stefan. They were trying to kill Julian now post the Lily situation. They have not managed to do it because Damon has failed him, as he often does. Valerie says she should have gone with him to end this, and Stefan is like, you still can. He brings up Mary Louise, is like, do you know where she is? Cut to them finding her, drinking at the Whitmore bar. They vervain Mary Louise. This is the second time Stefan has vervained Mary Louise, which is crazy. But they take a picture of her and send it to Julian. Julian then sends a message to Nora saying that the Mystic Falls gang has Mary Louise, just so she knows. So then Nora comes by. In Visiquade, she sneaks past Valerie as she's watching Mary Louise's body while the Salvatores go to kill Julian. And Nora snatches her and dips. They don't manage to kill Julian. Instead, both of the Salvatores get stuck in the Phoenix Stone. So Valerie disappears for 2 episodes.
Yeah, she's
presumably having
fully gone.
Left town. Which, smart. Why stick around? The boys are in the Phoenix Stone. This guy who is your enemy is too strong for you to face on your own. Just leave.
Frankly, it's obvious why she's the only one who makes it to the end.
Precisely. Valerie comes back in episode 12. Postcards from the Edge. And she comes to Mystic Falls and she finds that Julian has taken over the town with a bunch of his vampire friends from all over the South, I guess. And
which, again, why do you care, Julian?
I guess it's just spite now. He's also like grieving, so he's like deflecting from his grief over Lily, I guess, and he's having this, I wrote big perpetual party, and I remember when I wrote that in my head, I had the idea of a perpetual soup. Are you familiar with that?
A soup that never ends? I've never heard of that.
You make the soup and then you serve the soup, but you don't serve it all. You keep like the dregs of it behind, and then you're just always adding more to it. You add more ingredients, more water or stock or whatever, and you remake the soup again. And it's like a sourdough starter, but soup, where you remove the top portion to use and serve, and then you just keep rebuilding it.
And if I collect all the soup that I've served and then take the pot at a certain point, which one is the original soup?
Ooh, if the ship of Theseus is stripped of its parts, if your memories are bifurcated into your work life and your personal life, are you the same person? Watch Severance by Apple TV, season 2, completely out. Have you seen Severance, by the way?
I've seen everyone fawning over it. I have not watched it.
It's quite good.
But
I do enjoy it.
I will.
So Valerie comes to find Julian. Julian is like crazy to not only come back to this town, but be directly in front of me where I could kill you. And Valerie says, oh, I'm only here to deliver some mail that got accidentally redirected to me. Here you go. And she gives him this white card that has a red X on it. And his eyes go real wide. Because this episode is, of course, when we learn about the Huntress Raina Cruz.
His eyes are wide and his brows aren't flat.
His brows are not flat at all, which is why he is not Klaus Michelson. This man does not know how to control his terror. Absolutely gooped. This is apparently Raina Cruz's symbol. She makes it when she stabs you with the Phoenix Sword, which has been in play in the first half of the season.
She will be getting a copyright strike from the Xavier Institute.
Frankly.
Who, as we know, has the monopoly on all things X-related.
And also the Phoenix. It's like,
Yeah,
I'm sure Miss Gray has trademarked.
Charles Xavier's about to ring her up and be like, listen, Miss Ma'am, not only am I old money, but we're also owned by Disney now. You do not want to mess with us.
Right. You don't want to cross our legal team. Thank you very much. We'll put you in the ground, babe, for all your 8 lives.
He's like, oh, you've come back to life 8 times? Girl, if I tally up the number of resurrections the X-Men have had collectively.
So true. Oh, they'd have so much fun with her and Krakoa. Oh. But yes, Valerie's quite pleased to see Julian terrified. So she's like, well, I've got what I wanted. Time to go. She heads out and then she goes to where Stefan is because he's called her for help. Stefan's back at this point. So is Damon from the Phoenix Stone. They were in it for an episode, but it was like a couple of months, I think. Yeah. Caroline is now like 7-ish, 8-ish months pregnant and she has collapsed and is slowly desiccating. And Valerie figures out that the twins are siphons, much like herself, and they are drawing magic from Caroline's vampirism. She makes Caroline a talisman spelled with magic so that the babies can draw from that instead, which I'd forgotten that she did that as like an intermediate thing. There's this really nice moment when Stefan is gone where Caroline thanks her for her help. She says, we're not meant to like each other, you and I, but that's what makes this so much nicer. And Valerie seems really moved by that.
I mean, who says, Caroline? Who says you're not meant to like each other?
She means by the social mores, right? It's like she's the current girlfriend, Valerie's not only the ex, but the first love. By all rights, they should be enemies. And Caroline's like staring the stereotypes in the face.
I mean, honestly, in this show, I'm like, well, you dated Elena's ex. You dated Tyler when your ex was his best friend.
Right. This is old
Stefan
Hatfield.
is Elena's other ex, and his brother is with her. Honestly.
You've done it before, babe. You got this. Valerie also informs Stefan that Damon's on a weird self-involved spiral nearby Julian and his men. Again, this is after the Phoenix Stone, which has made both Stefan and Damon like a little bit off. So Stefan runs off, Valerie stays with Caroline, but when Caroline learns where Stefan's gone to, she gets upset at Valerie because she thinks Valerie wants Stefan to kill Julian to defend her honor, which I don't think is true. She seems to have moved past that, man. There's just a different storyline here about Stefan always disappearing to be the hero, so... She insists that Valerie... I called her Valerie many times before and I don't know where that's coming from.
It's the...
I don't know why.
It's the anglicized Latin pronunciation. One Valorous, several Valerie, but if you speak English, you say Valerie.
She insists Valerie go make sure that Stefan is safe, so she goes to Mystic Falls. They find Damon in some stupid vampire fighting ring. Much like the Blood Farm, it's this really dumb, localized story thing for Julian that will never come back. She puts an aneurysm on Julian long enough for Stefan to like persuade Damon to come away with them. Then out in the parking lot, she gets into Stefan's car after he has like a freak out about the whole situation. He's like punching the steering wheel and just like freaking out. And she's like, should I drive? Because you do not seem all right, dude. Stefan's like, here are all the bad things Julian has brought to all of us, to you, to me, and now he's ruining Damon. And here I am letting him live. Valerie tells him, unlike Damon, Stefan is smart enough to know Julian is strong. And not only that, he's now well protected now that he's got all his other vampire friends nearby.
Who are these vampire friends? Because I thought he went through all that trouble of building his heretic army that he couldn't let go of because he wanted them as protectors.
So this seems to be prior to meeting Lily and the Heretics. This is like during the Reina era, back in the early 1800s. He was apparently tearing across the south, just killing people, vampire style, and then also turning some people to just have some allies as he moved through. Now that he's back, they were all like, damn, Julian's back, where's the party at? And apparently the party's in Mystic Falls.
Gosh.
So, where's the
Mystic
party
Falls with its
tonight?
one party, well, with its 3 party venues. The high school gymnasium, the Mystic Grill, and the town square.
And would you believe it, they're at the Mystic Grill? So, they know what it's about. They know what's happening. Stefan's like, yeah, sure, but I don't care anymore. I just want him dead.
Very season 3, Klaus has to die.
Yes, once again occupying a Klaus space. Julian himself. But unlike Klaus, he can be killed. So they go to where he is at the Mystic Grill, crying himself through into like a beer cup or something. Valerie invisiquays the both of them, and then also Julian when they get there. She holds him down with magic, and Stefan stakes him. And to be honest, I'm like, why hadn't we done this already?
It seems so easy in that moment.
There's a moment where he struggles with the stake, but he eventually stakes him. It takes like 5 seconds of Julian pushing away, but they stake him. I guess everyone's been depressed. I don't know.
At one point, we had 3 Salvatore vampires and 3 heretic magic users united against this man. I don't know how we didn't quickly unspell him and kill him that same night. He's been around for too long, honestly.
I guess at the time they weren't trying to kill him, but then like since then I'm like, why has this been so difficult? I don't know. Why wasn't Valerie with him that first time? She says, I should have gone with you. And I'm like, yeah, you should have. You've got cloaking magic. This would have been much simpler, as we clearly see now. We just needed 1 vampire and 1 heretic. But, you know, it's a fun moment. They tell him, your friends can't see you. You're all alone here, and that's how you're going to die. And then Stefan pushes a stake very slowly into his chest.
It is nice. It's nice that he gets to do it slowly, so he's very aware for a good few seconds that he's going to die. It's nice that the 2 of them are the ones who finally take him down, the people he's hurt the most, I guess, since Lily is dead. Vampire Diaries is good at doing this, like, bookend sort of thing with its villains being beat. It's like, Stefan gets to knife Catherine. He's one of the people she put through the most, especially since Elena's not available for that scene. Bonnie gets to let Silas get sucked into the abyss.
Yeah.
He manipulated her at the end of season 4 and then murdered her father in season 5.
Mm-hmm. And to be fair, Elena is the one who gets to turn Catherine human, which was a fate worse than death.
Yes,
so even
she
got her little
does.
They do get it for her as well.
Tyler helps desiccate Klaus at the end of season 3 when he's like, I'm not a little bitch anymore.
Exactly. And helps Stefan do it, who was enslaved by him that season. Yeah, it's good. It's cathartic. And that's how that one ends. The next one, This Woman's Work, great Kate Bush song, check it out. They come back to the hospital to find Caroline unconscious, so I guess the talisman didn't work anymore. Maybe the babies got too hungry. Stefan gets a bunch of doctors working around the clock to try and do a C-section to get these babies out of her, and has compelled them to ignore anything magical that happens. Valerie, meanwhile, locks down the whole hospital wing. But the babies start boxing with the doctors because they don't want to leave. And so Valerie rounds up the remaining heretics. Even Beau, his first time back, good for him. They channel magic outside of Caroline to draw the twins out, which is really cool. I like to see them all standing together and chanting. While they're busy, though, Beau's scar, as you've mentioned, Fadzai, Beau has a scar on his neck from when he was stabbed by the Huntress through the neck in 1903, which is why he's mute, by the way.
Yeah.
The scar starts bleeding because elsewhere, Reyna Cruz has escaped. That's a whole other thing. Go back to the Reyna episode. She has gotten her Phoenix sword back, and now she's tracking him. Nora and Mary Louise take Beau and run off because Reyna will now be tracking him. She can see where you are once she's marked you and find you wherever. Valerie chooses to stay behind and keep the spell going by herself. Nora warns her that it could drain her, but Valerie says that she has to try and give these babies a chance. And it's very much what you said earlier, where it's like that loss of her own child. She has become very like dead set on making sure these children make it into this world. So that's very nice. Because I initially might have assumed that the staying was for Stefan, and I was like, kind of crazy to stay. I mean, I guess, but like, that's your family. And Beau, who's meant to be like your closest friend, is now in trouble. But then watching it again, it's like, oh no, it's for the babies. She very specifically is like, taking it on herself, this great magical feat to try and save these children. So I thought that was nice.
Probably especially now that she knows they're also siphons. She's like, oh, even more of a kindred set of spirits. Now that you mention it, I guess Nora saying, oh, it could drain you means that there is a limit to how much magic heretics are able to do before they get tired. Because in a mortal witch body, you'd be like, oh, Bonnie doing too much magic. It's the nosebleeds. It's the passing out. It's the whatever. She overuses expression in tandem with dark magic and spirit magic and then dies at the end of season 4, resurrecting Jeremy.
Quite literally drops dead from doing too much magic. God.
So it's interesting that in this vampire body that is effectively immortal save for certain situations, they are like, well, there is a limit to what you can do, even though you wouldn't die, but you probably like desiccate or something. So I guess that answers my earlier question of like, oh, is there a limit to how much magic they can drain from their vampirism?
Mm-hmm. And later we learn there's a limit to how much they can siphon even without becoming overwhelmed and being harmed by it. So that's also interesting. So Valerie stays and does the chant, and a bit later Bonnie comes in to tell them that Bo didn't make it. She's seen his dead body outdoors. Actually, I think burning, because I think Reyna burns them when she's done with them. So they can't return to their bodies after she's killed them.
Alas, we hardly knew ye.
Yeah. She then tells Stefan Damon is trying to get himself killed, so Stefan again has to head off to go save him. And this is, of course, where he gets marked by the Phoenix Sword. Valerie, now with Bonnie's help, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, keeps up the spell going long enough for the twins to be born. Good old Josie and Lizzie. Then the next episode is Moonlight on the Bayou. Stefan is now on the run from Reyna Cruz. Matt is struggling to locate either Stefan or Reyna with his power as the sheriff of Mystic Falls, because that's what he is now. Valerie comes in to help, and she's got a map of the highway system that Stefan's currently on, which must mean she's been in contact with Stefan, even though while Matt's on the phone with Caroline, they're trying to coordinate on this. She says Stefan's not been answering anyone's calls. So that's like, oh, interesting. There's a funny moment that I don't think is meant to be funny, that like lampshades the ludicrous journey that antagonists take sometimes on the show. Because Matt says to Valerie, I hope you can appreciate the irony that you need to help me because there's no sheriff department to do a proper search. And there's no sheriff department because you and the lesbians killed all the sheriffs. Which is like, yeah, it is kind of crazy that that's where we started. And now here we are. And we never resolved that with Matt, who all his friends who he studied with for at least a year or like 6 months. What's the minimum in America? It's not very long. Are dead. Valerie's like, yeah, okay. But also, I helped Caroline deliver her twins, and I'm desperate to keep Stefan alive. So actually, we're all good, and I don't know what you're complaining about. And it's like, yeah, I guess. So we move on.
The spirit of Klaus possessed her for just a second. The specter of, you forget that I'm the one who freed Tyler from the pains of the hybrid curse. I mean, the werewolf curse.
Buddy, you've killed everybody.
Innocent people, mind you. And the funny thing is, I know vampires in this world generally don't value human life, but I'm like, there's not really anything else Valerie does as an individual to suggest that she thinks humans can just be
drastic.
Killed all willy-nilly.
Yeah, it really is that opening episode to set up the conflict, and after that it's like, actually she's kind of normal, guys. She's not like insane. She's a little, but not that much. But which is what I'm saying is like, that's usually the journey with these sorts of antagonists, except for characters like Klaus Michelson, who just kind of are like that all the time.
Klaus, who if anything gets worse.
Yeah. Yeah, we learn that she's told Stefan to go to New Orleans because there's a bar there called St. James that can hide you from, I think, both magic and magical tracking. We've talked about St. James before. It sounds like a hospital, but it's a bar. We also learn in a call with Damon that she knows about the armory, and she's like, no, they're shady boots. We were tricked by them one time. They got us to use Bo as bait to lure Reyna in so they could imprison her. And they were very willing to let Bo die for that, which is like, yeah, that tracks. She's also then on the phone with Stefan later when Matt gets a hit on Reyna Cruz. And it turns out Reyna is on the same road that Stefan is currently on. So he hangs up and is like, I gotta go. Reyna does catch up with him, but as we know, his ex-boyfriend Klaus saves him. So don't worry too much about it. It's all good.
Whacks her so hard she dies.
Again, go back to the Reyna episode. It's a lot of fun. Next episode, I Would For You. This is after Stefan's guest appearance in the originals, so he's back from New Orleans.
And he's unsired now. It doesn't super matter in the Vampire Diaries, but...
Unsired?
From,
in the sense
sorry,
that, because the sire lines are at war. Spoilers for the originals.
The sire line has been undone, so everyone turned in Klaus's bloodline is now free of that connection.
Right.
He can die and it won't affect them.
But more importantly, he has a patch of herbs over his scar now that keeps Reina from tracking him. So now Valerie is driving him to some place to get more of those herbs so they can keep remaking it. Again, song choice. There's a song called X's and O's by Al King that's playing.
I like that song. Gosh, is it from that? Is it from a scene dealing with the X mark? Oh my gosh, CW. Is that how that ended up on my phone in university?
I only heard that song this year or late last year, and I was like, wow, this would have been my shit in the mid-2010s. This one's interesting because I don't, there's like a vibe to it that I'm like, oh, that's a shift, but I like it. Stefan is grumbling about the drive because they've been on a long drive to get to this place. And Valerie is like, oh, just think of it as an adventure. Because apparently Valerie is this like nomadic soul who doesn't care for domestic life that Stefan's been yearning for with Caroline. There's a lot of chat this episode where Valerie's like, oh yeah, you know, you want to settle down and get married or whatever, but I'm about the open road and not knowing where life will take me. And I'm like, really? Since when? That's interesting. I like it, but it's new.
She has to be whatever Caroline isn't. Otherwise, the love triangle isn't interesting.
Which is a shame because I'm like, this is a good vibe for you, Valerie, but it's certainly not something we've seen before. They get to that herb garden and they're bantering back and forth. Again, because of the flash forward, this is now more building on the fact that like, oh, these two are going to get together again. She's describing a bunch of herbs as they pass by them. And when Stefan recognizes the one hallucinogenic herb, Valerie's like, oh, interesting. So you do have fun sometimes. My bad, which is funny. But she does say that someone must have influenced him. Knowing Stefan Salvatore, he didn't pursue that on his own. And Stefan confesses, yes, it was with this girl called Rebecca. And I'm honestly so impressed that a writer referenced something so small from season 4 3 seasons later. Very uncommon with this show. That they reference even big things. They're usually getting shit wrong.
So Rebecca and Stefan got stoned, confirmed.
From you discussed it in the originals episode. They talk about
in Atticus's office.
Yeah. So that's fun.
I like that in this scene, our British actress and our American actor are saying the same words so differently. Stefan's like, oh, herbs. And she's like, and witches love their herbs. And I was like, I love how different the word is. I'm like, why do Americans omit the H? That's not a British thing.
No idea.
And your English comes from England.
No idea. There's gotta be a reason, though. So Stefan is like, yeah, Rebecca was a lot to handle. And Valerie then says, well, it explains why she's no longer in the picture. Because Stefan wants the small town girls who want to settle down and are easier to handle. And it's like, where's this coming from, Valerie? You and Caroline just made up. And now, what the hell is this? And to be fair, Stefan afterwards is like, I don't think anyone has ever described Caroline Forbes as easy to handle, which I thought was funny.
Although Klaus has called her a small town girl and been like, I can show you the world, shining, shimmering, splendid.
Yeah. That's fair. It is honestly insane whenever people act like just because this character is from this small town, they aren't worldly enough. Everything about Caroline Forbes screams that she will have, and it's crazy that she doesn't. It's because of her friends and family. She would have left town to go to an Ivy League somewhere and experienced a bigger city the moment she left high school. If this were a normal story in a normal world. But alas, they are all entangled by the supernatural. So it's just weird when everyone acts like, oh, she's the small town girl. It's like, okay.
Also, she's from the same town as Stefan. I'm like, give her enough vampire years. She'll explore the world just like he has.
She'll get
or
there.
At least the States.
Relax. But I guess now because calorie. What is happening?
Now there's a ship for you. Leave Stefan behind.
Throw that man away, my blonde girlies.
Calorie.
Bisexual energy in the room at a peak. Calorie.
They do.
Fall.
The geeks and girls and gays do love that pairing, that lesbian pairing of like the peppy, bright, blonde, bubbly girl and her dour,
angsty,
emo,
droll,
angsty, goth partner.
I do like that. What was I saying?
So
Caroline. Yes, because Caroline and Rick have the twins now, and they're being domestic in Dallas, is why Valerie, I think, is like saying all of this, because Caroline's now becoming this like family woman.
Oh yeah,
for better or worse. So.
Domestic in Dallas, the spin-off series.
That I do not want. Anyway, they get vein gassed by a herb witch and pass out. So that happens. And when they wake up, the witch is like, sorry about that. I only did that because I just got robbed a couple of days ago, so don't mind me. Apparently, somebody came by and took all of the rare herb that they're looking for to fix up Stefan, and it doesn't exist anywhere else in the world because witches eradicated it because it has anti-magic and anti-witch properties. They don't say who took it. I don't know if the implication is it's the armory, because maybe they didn't have Reyna anymore, so they didn't have an anti-magic thing, so they got the herb to, I don't know, make bullets? Anti-magic bullets? That never comes up, I don't think.
Maybe, because I don't know. If it's not Reyna, it could only be the armory, and Reyna hasn't caught up to them yet.
Yeah.
So
maybe this herb, I'll need to go back and watch the scene where they make Reyna the huntress. Maybe this is a herb that they use in that process.
Perhaps.
And that's why she has anti-magic properties in her blood and person.
Considering how little the two of us care about the armory, I'm willing to bet that it's them, and that's why we forgot it.
That's truly why I was like, does this come up again? I don't think so. But like you say, there's no way of knowing, because I erase the armory from my brain every time after we talk about it. So yeah, they just kind of leave it at that. I guess we have no more herbs. Stefan checks in with Caroline, and then he starts to collapse because elsewhere Damon has buried Reyna Cruz alive, only to learn that if she loses all of her lives and dies properly, any vampire that she's marked will die as well.
Because we're bringing back the Klaus original family energy of you can't kill your enemy because it'll kill your loved ones as well.
It'll kill you too. If you give someone poison, it kills you too. What's the expression? If you drink poison expecting your enemy to die.
Hating someone is like drinking poison and expecting them to die. I think something like that.
There you go.
I'm like, it's something we've already done this season with the whole Julian is linked to Lily thing. And I'm like, okay, fine. What the hell? Sure.
On Stefan, this manifests as something moving along his veins outward from the scar. So Valerie tries to siphon it away, but it doesn't work.
Why doesn't it work when every other kind of magic has been siphonable? Who knows?
Well, this is a Reyna Phoenix Stone thing, so it's impervious to magic.
Okay.
So that's how it works. Damon manages to revive Reyna before her final life can end, so Stefan doesn't die.
She full on spits up dirt. She's like, and all this gravel and soil comes out of her mouth.
So bad. She is effectively human. We've said this before. She is strong. She isn't resilient, has been proven. She gets hurt. She gets wounded. She has to stitch herself up because she doesn't have a healing factor. She's just a woman, a really strong woman who can sense her prey. But like that dirt that she swallowed when she was buried alive probably messed her up. Days of Future Past is the episode after that. We are now post the time jump, but we are also still flashing back 3 years. And we see Valerie joining Stefan on his journey to get rid of this scar. This is after Reyna has been captured. Damon has decided to go into a coffin and disappear for 60 years and wait for Elena, abandoning his brother and all his friends. Stefan went back to Caroline, but then looked through the window and saw her and Rick and the twins being a happy family and decided, I guess I don't fit in here anymore, and left.
I don't fit into this unconventional family.
Well, to him, apparently, that's a cookie cutter family.
A man and his biological children and their surrogate / birth mom.
Yep, I love surrogate / birth mom.
It's something that comes up because like usually you would say birth mom, assuming a person's birth mother is also their bio mother. But when you bring in surrogacy, it's like, well, I guess not. And in Legacies, when they speak about Jo, they refer to her as bio mom, and I'm like, yeah, because she's not your birth mom, because Caroline gave birth to you.
I like that. Valerie is selling Stefan again on this idea of making all of this an adventure rather than this doom and gloom thing. She's like, we can sit around the world and find a cure for this scar. Especially now that Stefan's lifespan is tied to Reyna's, because Reyna's on her last life, and again, she's mortal, so she has another 60 years tops, which means if they don't find something to get rid of the scar, Stefan is now also mortal.
Oh gosh, so even if she dies by natural causes, she still takes everyone with an X with her.
Yep.
Gosh.
Yep.
So much worse than the Hunter's Curse.
Yeah, she's an upgrade in every way. So Valerie's like, we can trace back Reyna's ancestry to wherever her family comes from, which is weird, because they know the Phoenix Sword and the Everlastings are Native American, so it really feels like an excuse to go party in the Philippines, which they then do. So I'm like, all right, fair enough. Do what you want to do. But she does tell Stefan, though, that everyone he knows has made a choice that serves them best. Why not make the choice that serves you? Which I do think that man needs to hear sometimes. So I appreciate that. In present day, I guess, which again, 3 years into the future, Stefan is on the run again. He's just had an encounter with Reina Cruz in a news station because she's escaped. Calls Valerie to tell her that there might be a way to transfer his scar to someone else, according to Reina. And the plan now is to shift it to Damon. Valerie is like, wow, that's unexpectedly unselfish for Damon, but okay. She says she'll make her way to Dallas, where they are, and when Stefan tells her to be safe, she says, always, love. And it's like, oh yeah, they're together. Which, I don't know, I have complicated feelings about them being together, because it's not Valerie's fault that... Because of that, Stefan and Caroline are in a very bad place in the back half of season 7. And even though she had that energy in the last episode where she was like, ooh, small town girl settling down, it's like, she doesn't have anything against Caroline. And she wasn't trying to convince Stefan to abandon her. But like, it just sucks that it's tied into this energy, because I do kind of like them together. They have a nice vibe. Like Stefan and any girl he's with, she brings him out of himself. She has him have fun a little bit.
At the time I was watching this, and I could sense Steroline looming in the distance as potential endgame. I was like, you know what? Honestly, I'm gonna say it. This was the thing I was gonna say in the beginning that I was like, I know it's gonna upset you. I would rather have had what we call Stellary.
You can't even find one, because there isn't one.
I would have rather had Stellary.
Veffin. I guess.
Simply because in my mind, I was never going to get over the loss of Tyraline, even though it's been like 2 seasons at this point.
It's been a while.
And because, as you know, I always preferred Stefan and Caroline as friends. So I'm like, honestly, given the beautiful way, I think, in which you retconned Valerie into Stefan's life, and you had this like traumatic thing that tied them together, I would have accepted Valerie being endgame for Stefan if she could have stayed on as a main character. They can be broody and emo together.
I don't know. I'd never thought about it in huge detail before because, I mean, it doesn't work out for them. Spoiler alert. I mean, I'm sure you know if you know. Valerie never felt like she had fully integrated into the group, so it never occurred to me that that was even like a thing that could happen.
I mean, it didn't stop Enzo from being Bonnie's endgame.
Yeah, and there's a reason it never... Oh, God. I can't get into Enzo. Do you know his Enzo Part 2 remains the least performing episode of the entire season?
People said, you have another episode of this? I don't care.
I said I don't give a shit. It's fascinating that not a single Enzani has come in to be like, oh, they're only discussing Enzo and Bonnie in the second part. Let's go pump that one up. Apparently the Enzanis aren't here. The Benzos aren't here. So... wild. I don't think I've ever thought about these pairings in contest with each other just because it never occurred to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly obvious who's gonna win, and it's obvious that she's yet another obstacle on the road to Steroline to make it feel truly earned. But I was just like, you know, if I had to choose one, because Tyler's still alive at this point.
Oh, you thought there was a route back? You thought there was a way? You thought they liked that man enough to bring him back in a romantic capacity?
There's always a way back.
He comes to Dallas where she's with her fiance and he's like, Caroline, I miss you. Yeah, she gets to that news station in Dallas where Damon is injured after their encounter with Reina. She used like werewolf venom in her darts that she shoots. So Valerie siphons that away from him, which we know they can do.
Where did she get it from? Because there's no more hybrids. Did she get it from Tyler?
It might be Tyler because the armory had werewolf venom from Tyler.
Okay.
Because Enzo traps Tyler in a cell one time. Oh, after Damon beats the shit out of him so he can heal when he wolves out at the full moon. So I'm sure they were busy extracting him. She siphons the werewolf toxin away, and then she starts bringing out candles from her bag to do the transfer spell, because they're going to transfer the scar from Stefan to Damon. And then Damon jabs her with a Strava vein dart that was on the ground, and is like, on second thoughts. So we cut away from that. We go back to 2 years ago, so a year after Valerie and Stefan go on the run. They're in the Philippines, tipsy, and they're talking to some woman about the Phoenix Scar, but they start saying some nonsense and then she just leaves because they're being annoying. And they assume nobody knows what they're saying because they're speaking in English. Wild. Like, I understand you're in a different country, but okay. At some point, she goes to order them more drinks, and the bartender quietly tells her that he does know what they're saying. He says so in English, and he can help with what they're looking for. We don't hear that conversation. So then we see Valerie next sitting down with Stefan on the beach under the starry night sky. He's being all poetic and dramatic, getting constellations wrong, being cute. And Valerie is like very swayed by this, of course. And the two of them kiss. And I appreciate that they waited a year. They didn't like immediately like start getting into it, you know? So that's something.
I think the song that plays is Little Do You Know. I was really into it. It's by, I don't know these people. They're called Alex and Sierra.
Love them.
It's a cute song. It's on the nose as usual.
What's the little do you know in this situation? Maybe I'm stupid.
It's just, I guess, little do you know how in love with you I still am.
Oh, sure.
Near the end of the song, they start singing, I'll wait, I'll wait.
Oh, no.
The lyric is, I'll wait, I'll love you like you've never felt the pain. I'll wait, I promise you don't have to be afraid. I'll wait, love is here and here to stay, so lay your head on me.
All right.
And I was like, okay.
All right. Thanks for letting me know.
Leading us by the hand since episode 1 of this damn show, when Bonnie is speaking to Matt, who's still hung up on Elena. And he's like, she broke up with me. I don't know if I can talk to her. And Katy Perry's like, the bridge of Thinking of You is playing. And it's like, you're the best. And yes, I do regret how I could let myself let you go. And then Stefan and Elena walk in as the chorus starts again.
Swelling chorus so loud over everything else. It's like, okay. God damn. Cut back to present day. Valerie wakes up in Damon's car. She is tied up with vervain-soaked ropes, and Damon accuses Valerie of having known the whole time that they could transfer the scar from Stefan to someone else, which I assume is... Well, no, here's the thing, because I then assumed that's what the secret conversation she had with the bartender was, but what Damon says in this scene is that it's the same spell that the Gemini coven used to put the twins in Caroline's womb. It's a transfer spell, broadly speaking. So I was like... Okay, so then what's the bartender conversation about? Because I don't think that comes back either.
It must be something implied that we're forgetting.
Oh, God. I hate being dumb.
It is season 7. We are in the Armory era. There's a lot of stuff we don't care about. Apologies, dear listener. We've forgotten a lot.
Don't know what else it could be. It's already silly enough that they're getting answers actually in the Philippines when the magic they're talking about isn't from the Philippines. Reina is Filipino, but...
Because they put the magic into Reina's blood. They're like, okay, let's go find her bloodline.
What? Silly.
Will neutralize her blood, period, which by extension will neutralize the magical properties it was given by Native Americans.
Crazy. I'm like, are they trying to say that there's maybe a group of Native American peoples who came by way of the Philippines? I'm like, your timeline's off. Filipino people from a certain era in the States. We talked about this in the Reina episode. And it's a shame because that would have been an interesting dive into Filipino mythology if they wanted to introduce something magically. But we know that's not what the Everlastings or the Phoenix Sword are. She was given that, well, the sword was the one she was given by her father, but the magic on the sword is by the shamans who imbued her with all her power.
Valerie just wanted to take a little vacay.
That's what I'm saying! She wanted to go sip Mai Tais. Are those Filipino? Are those Thai? Mai Tai? I don't know where Mai Tais are from.
I mean, given the name, let's see. How do you spell Mai Tai? Is it Thai or is it...
The thing is, I don't know if that's the same as Muay Thai, which is the fighting form, which is M-U-A-Y.
It's not the same as the fighting form. The drink is
Then
something...
I don't know how to spell the drink.
Okay, so it's not Thai as in T-H-A-I. It's T-A-I.
Okay.
It says tiki culture.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
News to me.
So I guess not Filipino?
Yeah, what's a Filipino drink then? I don't know, piña coladas?
I don't know. I am not a drink expert.
And I'm not a Filipino expert. So clearly we're under
the blind leading the blind here.
This. We'll just say she wanted to have a drink and move on. So yeah, Damon says this. He tells Valerie, oh, you just wanted to keep Stefan with you and from his life with Caroline. And then Valerie says, no, actually, it was to keep Stefan from you, Damon, because the Phoenix Scar needs to be transferred specifically to a blood relative, which would mean waking you up from your self-induced desiccation and bringing back all your drama into Stefan's life, just as he was finally thriving without you. So that's fine.
Or we go and find Sarah Salvatore.
Please don't do this. Please.
I'm kidding. No one would ever do that to her. Shame. Poor sweetie.
Bless her. She's on her way.
It's crazy to think she was just living her life for like...
just around.
Not even 3 years, because there's a time jump. So like 6 years?
Yep.
And then the sirens just show up and kill her. Oh no.
Just kill her. In the episode, we bring her back. Wild. Yeah, she then drags Damon for abandoning his brother, which always fair and deserved. Stefan calls her, but Damon grabs the phone before she can. She's again tied up. They're like rushing to an airfield where she was supposed to meet Stefan, and Valerie shouts that Damon is refusing to take on the Scar. Damon tries to smokescreen. He's like, we're bringing the cavalry, little brother. We're gonna take Raina down. And Stefan's like, are you or are you not taking the Scar? And he's like, I have a plan. Which is like, okay. Anyway, Stefan gets shot because Raina catches up to him. Valerie and Damon hear this over the phone. And then Raina picks the phone up and says, I'll catch you later. And then hangs up because she's a badass like that. And then Valerie tells Damon they're too late because of him. And she drags him again for being a coward and for choosing himself over Stefan. He finally agrees to do the transfer. So Valerie casts the spell while he's driving, but while she's chanting, the Scar starts to disappear. Because on the other side there by the airfield, Raina has killed Stefan with the Phoenix Sword. They get to the airfield, they find his dead body, both very emotionally overwhelmed. Valerie says, we can bring him back. We've done it before, except they don't have the sword or the stone. We then see, of course, Nora and Mary Louise blow up the sword and the stone in their Thelma and Louise moment as they drive off.
Thelma and Mary Louise.
As Damon says the following episode, Thelma and Mary Louise. Next episode, I went to the woods. Valerie's now mourning Stefan and Nora and Mary Louise, who have both died within hours of each other. She's still got Damon yapping in her ear. She drags him a third time for being too selfish to save Stefan's life. And Damon's like, hey, I've decided to do the right thing now that Stefan's dead, so actually you're the bitch. How about that? She's like, all right, buddy. I don't know what to tell you. She then tracks down Raina Cruz. She just invisiquates to her while she's on, what do you call it? It's a phone, but it's outdoors. What?
An outdoors phone?
Payphone.
A payphone?
A payphone. Why did I forget what a payphone is called? There was an iconic Maroon 5 song. Oh no. Finds her at a payphone. She's like, oh, Raina's telling... I can't remember who Raina's on the phone with, but is telling them all the vampire souls in the Phoenix Stone have been scattered. And so Valerie's like, you're gonna tell me everything, and then takes her to Rick's house. Meanwhile, and they don't know this, Stefan is now in the body of a random bus driver named Marty. So she brings Raina to Rick, because he lives in Dallas, where everyone is. And the two of them coordinate with Raina. She's now seeing visions of all the Phoenix vampires, and they're trying to find Stefan so they can put him back in his own body. So Valerie has Rick get a picture of Stefan from Caroline's stuff, and she uses that as a magical focus so that Raina can hone in on him. And they find Marty, the bus driver, in Arkansas, which is a couple states away. Meanwhile, Ambrose, this serial killer vampire that's now in Stefan's body, Damon ran into him and is like, oh, Stefan's back, and has just thought that Stefan has amnesia, which Damon's been through this before with both Joe and Oscar. But I guess because once it had happened, he just dipped from the responsibility of either of those two people, and he's not aware that this is... No, he should know. Why wouldn't Damon know? This is stupid, right? Why would he assume that it's actually Stefan in his own body and he just has amnesia, when that has happened twice and it turned out both times to not be the person whose body it was? Damon's an idiot, man.
We know that the D in Damon stands for denial.
It stands for dumbass.
This is the same man who was like, Elena can't keep animal blood down because of her weird doppelganger blood, obviously. Just pulled the theory out of his ass. Didn't bother to check in with Catherine Pierce to see if it was true.
God. I bet all the guilt of getting his brother killed. Now he's like, no, it must be Stefan. So that way I'm good and I'm okay and I haven't actually done anything wrong. You bastard. He realizes that they want to put Stefan back, Ambrose that is, that they want to put the rightful owner of the body back in. So he jumps out of a moving car and vamp speeds away and goes to Memphis because that's where he did his serial killing. When Raina hears about this, she's like, well, that's my priority. So I'm going to go. And she busts out of Rick's house. Valerie tries to stop her, but Raina snaps her neck. Finally, at the end of that episode, there's a scene with Valerie and Rick in a diner. I think it's their job to go find Ambrose in Memphis, but they've got locked in because of a snowstorm. Valerie tells Rick, because Rick is the one who's like, listen, we've got to wait out the snowstorm. We can't do anything now. And she's like, oh, this is very convenient for you. Because if Stefan dies out there, it's less competition for you with Caroline, and you don't have to lift a finger. You come out looking all perfect in this. Rick says, how insecure do you think I am? Valerie's like, babes, I'm on the other end of this weird romantic tug of war we've got going on. Trust me, I get it. I just never fooled myself into thinking what I had with Stefan would last. But you put a ring on it.
I remember her saying you put a ring on it.
Like, when did she learn about Beyonce's single ladies? I'm curious. But yeah, she's like, listen, I'm rooting for you and Caroline, which is this very tongue-in-cheek thing of like, Rick is like, oh, how selfish of you. And she smiles because it is this kind of sad reality that like their respective relationships can only continue to exist so long as Stefan and Caroline are kept apart. And one of them is more willing to vocalize that than the other.
One of them I could have rooted for, and we all know it ain't Alaric. I do like that she says, I'm rooting for you and Caroline. And I'm like, yeah, you're the only one in both worlds, both within the story and outside the story.
I still need to do my research and learn if there were any caloric shippers.
I think by then you were either still bitter about Caroline not working out, or you'd moved on to shipping Steroline, or like me, you were sitting there just cradling the dead body of Tyraline, refusing to let it go.
It's a rough road for the early relationship shippers, unfortunately. And with an 8-season show, it sucks.
Oof.
Sucks to suck. And then finally episode 18, which is Valerie's last episode in the show, one way or another. At this point, they've managed to get both Stefan, who is in Marty's body, and Ambrose, who is in Stefan's body. Valerie is in a motel. She's gathering some energy so that she can get ready to do the soul transfer spell when the two men are right in front of her. She tells Damon it's a Gemini spell, and apparently these usually require 2 witches, which is bad design in my opinion, but fair enough. Once again, Damon's yapping in her ear. He's like, are you actually going to be able to do this spell or not? And I'm just like, do it yourself then, if you are going to sit here and doubt. Oh, she says this and it's so sad. Valerie says, everyone she's ever loved in this entire world is gone. Which is true. At this point, Lily and all the heretics are gone. It's just her left of this group. She says, Stefan is the only thing I have left, so I'll do whatever it takes to make sure this works. And I think that is also on rewatch what I've appreciated about the fact that, like, it doesn't work out because there is a bit of it that's like a dependency, the familiar and the old. Because again, she's fresh out of a prison world. She's been alive in the real world for like 6 months at most. Wow, a little bit more actually. It's getting closer to a year because oh wait, no, we've had the time jump.
Yeah.
Stupid time jump. 4 years.
So she's
years.
had plenty of years to listen to Beyonce's Single Lady.
That's fair. You know what? Good point. But in that time, she has been in Mystic Falls and then on the run with Stefan, and she's not really experienced anything else in this life, which, you know, live your life, see the world, girl, damn. When they finally get Stefan and Ambrose to the motel, she starts the spell, and there's a moment where she hops into Stefan's mind. It's very similar to how Stefan did for Caroline when she was going through her C-section. She makes him more comfortable while she's like transferring his soul back into his body. When she brings up where they're going next, Stefan starts talking about staying closer to home now that he doesn't have the Phoenix Scar anymore and he doesn't need to run. Because interestingly, dying got rid of the Phoenix Scar, so that's fun. Sometimes your problems can't be solved by dying.
I mean, I guess.
Joke.
Dying properly purged Alaric of the Vampalaric / Evil Alaric persona.
You know?
But on the other hand, dying did not save Father Kieran in season 1 of the originals. So.
Oh, Father K. But yeah, he's like, I don't need to be on the run anymore. And Valerie says, when we're talking about staying closer to home, I know you don't mean Mystic Falls because Matt is having a so-called storyline right now, so none of us are allowed in town anymore. So I guess you mean Dallas, where Caroline is. Stefan's like, no, of course not. Valerie says, no, you have a chance to go back to your real life. I get it. And Stefan's like, Valerie, you are my real life. Then she starts bleeding from the nose because the spell is overwhelming her. In the real world, physically, she starts to collapse, but Damon yanks her back upright. It's so awful. It happens a number of times while she's doing the spell where she starts to collapse over, and Damon's like, no, you promised you'd do this, and pushes her up and puts her hands on Stefan and Marty's bodies. And it's just like, I don't care if this kills you. You're bringing him back. And it's like, well, never change, Damon Salvatore, I guess.
Frankly, he could have fed her some blood, since we know vampires can survive on vampire blood.
Didn't give her himself to siphon off of. Didn't do anything that would maybe help her to do this. It's just like, no, figure it out. Which is his MO, you know? Sorry I'm so pissed at Damon this episode. It's just in the back half of season 7, he becomes really annoying.
I think by then I'd given up on him, so I tend to take a lot of the stuff less personally. I was like, this is the show now. Damon is endgame because Elena's asleep. What can we do? Until he murders Tyler in season 8, I was kind of just over it.
Sure. I think it's only because it's a very like Legend of Korra season 2 thing where it's like you started the season with such a good setup for this person and then you just kind of throw it away halfway through. After a really good episode too, after Hell is Other People, where he's in that Phoenix Stone. Then after that, they're just like, more of the same, actually. He just sucks. Even more now. Because it's like directly to the one person he used to show up for. So, Back inside the mind space, Valerie asks Stefan to tell her honestly if she's only been a pleasant distraction these 3 years, or if it's been something more. Stefan is like, you were never a distraction, Valerie, and he tells her to stop the spell because it's killing her, and she shouldn't sacrifice herself for him. Valerie's like, I won't break my promise, and that Stefan is all she has. She then disappears from his mind space, and for a hot second it's like, oh no, did she die? Did like the spell actually kill her? And then Stefan wakes up in his own body, and Valerie is leaning over him there, still alive. So, woo! Stefan is saved, spell successful, everything's good. Later, after he's cleaned up, he comes back into the motel room to see Valerie was writing him a letter. And she tells him that when he told her to stop the spell, she could hear the fear in his voice, but he wasn't afraid of dying. He was afraid that she was going to die for him, and that it wouldn't have been worth it because he doesn't love her the way she loves him.
I remember that scene. Yeah. I believe I Get to Love You is the song that starts to play over it. Which, for once, is not lyrically directly aligned with what's happening.
Sure.
It's more the feeling. Maybe it's more like, I got to love you, but I'm going to be fine. I get to survive. I'm the last heretic standing.
She says she's never loved anyone the way she loves Stefan, but that's not true for him with her. And now he has a chance to make things right with Caroline. She's being so empathetic and like caring and selfless in this moment. And as she's leaving, she says, if things had been different and the world had been kinder to them, she could have been the love of his life too. A small, quiet human life. And that made me very sad. Because as you said, the way that they met when they were much younger was very sweet. And it was like torn apart by so much trauma.
If the world had been kinder to them.
Yeah. Alternate paths.
Give them a doppelganger dream episode where they have future kids and they're like, he bit her.
Oh, Stefan kind of has one, crazily, that's not explained, where he's thinking of the child he didn't have and even names him, like Justin or something. I can't remember what the kid's name was. I was like, this feels... And no magic was involved? Okay. It's fascinating. Stefan drops his head, he apologizes, and she says, no, this will be good for me. I get to go out there and find a life that's completely my own, which is what I was saying earlier. It's like, girl, you gotta learn to stand on your own 2 feet. You've got the, like, moxie, you've got the strength, You can brave this world. You've got the nomadic spirit, as it turns out. I'm pleased to learn. Go see the world.
Frankly, you've got the power. You are the only heretic in the world.
In the world! So cool. But yeah, she kisses him and she grabs her bag and she tells Stefan, I know you don't always believe it, but you deserve to be happy. So promise me you'll be happy. And then she leaves the motel, she leaves the episode, and she leaves the show as the only surviving heretic in the world. At least until the end of the show. I'm sure Legacies has thrown that shit in. Like, having seen nothing since there are 2 siphons in the main cast, statistically speaking.
Yeah.
There must be.
One day I'm gonna have to finish that show. But yeah, I know that the writers almost killed her off.
Really?
Looking back, it probably would have been now when she was saving Stefan.
Yeah.
Since it was killing her. Eventually the decision was made to shame, no, spare her. She's been through quite a lot already. More than enough.
Yeah.
Let her go out into the world, and there's the possibility that she found happiness on her own. So that's nice. Like you said, she really had always been tied to other people, you know, to Lily, to the Heretics, to Julian's abusive little clan, to Stefan. And my headcanon is that at the start of, what is it, season 4? I think it's the start of season 4 of the originals, which is the season where everyone is asleep and Freya's the only one who is awake by the end of that season. I think it's 3. They've all been either poisoned or damaged in some way that needs her to keep them in a stasis. And then season 4 just starts with her having basically solved all but, I think, Klaus. She's like, I got a witch to siphon the hex that was on whoever was hexed. I think it might have been Elijah.
Oh, it has to be her.
So I'm like,
because there's no other siphons.
Yeah, there's no other siphon.
Seemingly the setup. It's never said explicitly, but seemingly all siphons come from the Gemini coven, whether that's because of, as we've said, their inbreedy merging process, and that's why like kids from their coven will pop out and are siphons, or that's just some sort of coven. I don't know what the reason is, but all the siphons we ever meet are from that coven.
Yeah.
So there wouldn't be any alive other than Valerie because they were all killed by Kai.
When he suicided, so...
Right, exactly. Through his connection as the leader of the coven, they all died. It's gotta be Valerie.
That's what I like to think. Freya looked her up, was like, hey girl, hey. Valerie was like...
I helped your ex-boyfriend with his... Because Freya's the one who gives him the patch. The patch of
Yes,
hers.
she is!
So she's like...
She saved her
"Listen,
contact. She called her up when she needed
calling
some
in
help.
a favor." That's cute. That's cute. I love that. And I much prefer the outcome of her surviving. Frankly, not enough people in general, but women survive this show. Especially women who are like antagonists who then become sort of like anti-hero-esque and then like, you know, have their own shit going on. They usually die at that point.
Yeah,
which is like, well, damn.
this show can be very Grey's Anatomy with its inability to write people out without killing them.
It's like, if you weren't so fixated on everyone staying in this town, you wouldn't have an overpopulation of characters, right? People can leave, people can move. Frankly, people should move.
Frankly.
But yeah.
She joins a small group of people along with like Meredith Fell, who managed to live
She's in
and
Alaska.
leave. So good for her.
Good for her. But yeah, that's all she wrote for Valerie Tulle. Again, like I said, my favorite heretic. One of the better things about season 7. I think it's funny. This one was a spot we had free for like, because the way we do this is that if the listener's not aware, we pick the top 22 build characters, or rather who had the most appearances in the show. And then you start picking out like, okay, who won't we have enough to talk about because they're more of a supporting side character that's not like a really complex, like overarching narrative. And I think this was a space where we were like, maybe we'll talk about one of the parents. Maybe it'll be Liz Forbes. Maybe it'll be Carol. But it was like, they don't really have ongoing stuff, you know? And we'll discuss them in their kids episodes in detail. So that might be enough. And I was like, you know what? Season 7 has got a number of people where I'm like, the season is fine, but these people are interesting to me. And it's Lily, it's Raina, and it's Valerie. And so I've got now a chain of characters nobody has heard of or cares about, where I'm just like, let's look at these women and what were they up to in this era. They were kind of killing it very quietly, and I really appreciate that.
They're interesting characters. It's funny that season 7, I often say, is one of the weakest for me. I don't hate it as much as season 5.
Certainly not.
But
it's got its problems for sure.
Yeah, and I think by this point I was checking out a lot more. Season 5 might have been dull a lot of the time, but I was at least paying attention. Season 7, it's like, you really have to pick out the interesting parts from a lot of the nonsense that's happening, especially in the back end. Post Lily's death, and post us dealing with Julian, it's like, now it's the armory, and Reyna should be an interesting thing, and she is, but how she engages with the rest of the story isn't always that fun.
It's never serving her. She's on paper one of the most interesting villains in this show, and yet the execution is like, damn, I wish she was more central. I don't know.
Yeah. Valerie is very good, I think, specifically for the season in which she exists, because if not for her, I would have no F's to give about Julian. Truly, it is interesting to explore the whole abusive stepdad thing from the Salvatore's point of view, and the whole, Lily has a pattern of choosing abusers thing. That is interesting. But in terms of him being this truly evil, threatening villain, like it's like, he's actually posing a danger, because he never really poses a danger to Lily herself. Not intentionally, not directly. In terms of seeing him as a threat and feeling afraid of him, it's mainly through Valerie's eyes because of the terror that he puts her through. Otherwise, it's like, sir, we've met Catherine, Klaus, Silas. You mean nothing.
He really does feel a lot like, it never feels like, oh no, we haven't killed Julian, whatever we do, we're not safe. It's like, god damn it, we can't manage to kill this guy. How do we get rid of him?
Yeah.
Like, no one's terrified of Julian. He's just, it's like a cockroach at the end of the nuclear apocalypse, you know? It's like, god damn it. Even that?
In this show where we've been raised to believe your enemies need to die.
Yeah.
No jail system in the Vampire Diaries universe. It's like, he was a monster to Valerie. We have to kill him. Absolutely. Like you say, not because he's this huge threat, but just because it's like, well, he was bad. So, vengeance dictates that he has to be destroyed.
Justice. Get him out of here. I agree. A lot of Julian is interesting through Valerie and through Lily. Julian by himself, as you say, post Lily's death, that middle arc is the most boring part of this season because Reyna's not here yet. And Lily isn't here anymore. And Valerie disappears for 2 episodes. So it's a lot of nothing about Julian and his perpetual party of vampires and Damon's self-indulgent spiral and Stefan having to always save him and like messing up his relationship with Caroline. It's just like, well, I've got nothing to latch on to. I guess Matt and Tyler struggling to put a diaper on a baby toy is the most exciting thing happening.
Tyler comes back for the baby shower.
Imagine being at a baby shower for your ex-girlfriend and your old history teacher who is now your friend. Oof. You were his best man at his wedding, bizarrely.
Wait, was Tyler the best man? I'm sure it was Damon.
Tyler and Matt were best men at Rick's wedding. It was Damon, Tyler, and Matt.
Okay, I guess they were groomsmen, but I'm sure the best man would have to be Damon.
Oh, sorry, yes. That's what I mean. Sorry. I was like, the best men, they're groomsmen. That's what they're called.
They threw him a bachelor
Tyler,
party.
And Matt. It was weird. Caroline, Elena, and Bonnie were the groomsmen and the ladies in waiting for this wedding. It's so
ladies in waiting?
What is it called?
It's the bridesmaids.
Bridesmaids.
An even more common term than groomsmen. And Alaric at least has known these people for years. Elena, Bonnie, and Caroline being Joe's bridesmaids. I was like, hi, boy, Joe, this is embarrassing.
Joe's like,
don't you have friends?
I guess you're my med student, and I saved you from bleeding out one time, and you're planning the wedding, so I might as well throw you in there. It's like, oh no,
she
Joe.
Didn't have any colleagues that she wanted to even work friends? I'm like, you were a combat medic. You don't know anyone? You've been around the world.
Now, if she hadn't been so haughty about the heretics, maybe she could have had Valerie and the lesbians, her family, standing over there on the pulpit. Pulpit?
The
altar.
Pulpit? The altar. What's happening
today?
We're unraveling. It's the end. That's
God.
Why. Question. And this requires a stretch of the imagination because in order for this to happen, Julian would have had to be far more interesting. But in a world in which Julian, like Klaus, was such an interesting villain that they felt the need to keep him on the show for another season, do you think Valerie would have stuck around?
I don't know about that. I don't know, because again, past the mid-season finale where she disappears for a bit, she seems to have moved past him. When they kill Julian, it's for Stefan. I mean, she's happy to do it because that's still the man who did all that stuff to her, but it's very Stefan directed. She is helping him kill Julian. So I don't think she would automatically be tied to him going forward. I think, honestly, what would have happened then is she would have died rather than
Oh,
left
no!
town.
Actually, that's probably... They would have killed her to make Julian seem worse.
Yes.
And then have Stefan on this vengeance quest. Yeah,
Exactly
yeah. Ugh.
So, yeah. I thought you were going to ask if he was an interesting villain and he rolled forward to the next season as the overarching. I would have been like, it's a Ricardo Diaz situation. You can be as good a villain as you want, but if we've beaten you in one season and then you're just kind of around and still presenting an issue, no thanks.
It's kind of funny that Ricardo Diaz has become our shorthand for that trope.
Any other thoughts on Valerie Tulle?
Might be the only heretic with a surname. I don't know if Hildegard is Nora's second name or a surname.
I have to assume it's a surname, surely. It's not hyphenated like Mary Louise.
I mean, if it's a second name, it wouldn't be hyphenated. But yeah, you're right. It probably is a surname.
Why would they call her Nora Hildegard first name, second name?
I don't know.
That would be so weird.
Imagine if it was hyphenated, like Rebecca Diane.
Right. Bexdie. For like Norhill. Norhill, love to see you. You do sound like a town in England, so fair enough. But to be fair to you, the way that they give out surnames, it would just be the two of them and no one else, which is bizarre. So it's like, it's just as equally possible that it's not a surname, and they're just like, yeah, Nora Hildegard, no surname. Like Oscar, no surname, Bo, no surname, Malcolm, no surname, Mary Louise, no surname, you know?
Yeah. Of all of them, I would have at least expected Mary Louise to get one as well. I mean, the boys are never around long enough. The story doesn't really care about them that much. But I was like, Mary Lou, you were about to get engaged. They didn't think, what's
the family
let's
name
hyphenate their names.
When two women get married, who changes their surname?
They switch.
Love that.
She becomes Mary Louise Hildegard, and Nora just becomes Nora.
Tom Holland just becomes Tom marrying Zendaya.
That meme still makes me laugh.
Kills me. Well, on that note, I guess we wrap this one up. Thank you, listener, if you were even here. I'm honestly so curious to see how this one's gonna do. But regardless, thank you for listening. Don't worry, the next episode will be one you are very excited about. And that's all I'll say. To be fair, there's only so many episodes left. There are 3 episodes total left for this season, so stay tuned. If you have any questions, queries, or just want to say hi, you can mail those to animalattackpod@gmail.com. You can also tweet us at animattackpod. That's at ANIM Attack Pod. You'll find a link tree in our bio that has all our online stuff. Also remember, follow at Call Dark Pod to see my spooky audio drama, Call to the Dark. To find where to follow it on your podcast platform, just go to the Twitter and there'll be a way to do that. Hope you enjoy, and until next time, we'll be seeing you. Cheers.
Bye.